Department of Homeland Security. This is one of the 20 YouTube.
750,000, it's not going to make a dent. Nobody's going to notice that for the most part. So why can't you just increase the 750
Department
design
of
fee
Homeland
and the bond to
Security.
1.5? That way then the Type B doesn't have to pay for it.
The reality is that we're at capacity with that bond. I'm personally working on, I'm the lead on the bond. And
Really?
I could tell you that
Department of Homeland Security.
sounds like a long way.
FBI.
Sharpen our pencils
Maybe
with the
4
different-
motorcycles.
An underscore 20,251,029 _003538.
Department of
Coming
FBI.
251,029 _16469.
Coming back is good. Thanks as well to your XO, Captain Patrick, blind Captain.
BI.
Where is he, Patrick? Patrick, thank you. Highly respected person. All of these people are the best. Look at them. I mean, you look at them. They could have any job they wanted. They could walk down to Wall Street, make a fortune. They wouldn't do that. They like what
Let's
they're doing,
go.
and nobody does it better, as well as really one of the most important people on the ship. Have you ever?
It's 22.
For,
22.
for the infill housing program?
Yes, sir. For the $1 million.
Let's go.
Route
Okay.
54, 1044.
Department _ Homeland Security.
Department of Homeland Security. Do you like Antos?
3606
FBI.
East and Fannin. Work with Medic 7 off EMS1 at 1002.
Department of Homeland Security.
To report a problem, you can also use the 311 smartphone app. Select from a list of service
Spoofing.
requests, take pictures to be uploaded, add a location, and submit the information, all done from your mobile device. Corpus Christi 311, where solutions start with a call.
Thank you. Thank you.
AI might take their job. And all the nonsense we see on the news every day, the over-the-top rhetoric, the
Thank you very much.
fabricated conspiracies, the
So I've been
weird
waiting for this
videos
meeting for
of-
20 years, actually.
of a U.S. president with a
And
crown
it's not that
on his
everything's
head, flying
100%
a fighter
understood
jet
or known,
and
but
dumping
I think
poop
we've made a lot of strides.
on
Wish it was done a long
protesting
time ago.
citizens.
Today
All
we're
of this
delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible crisis. I want to thank the man who brought this issue to the
I've
forefront of
been waiting
American
for this
politics
meeting
along
for
with
20
me.
years, actually.
And we actually met in my office.
Department of
Is
Homeland
it like
Security.
20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York. I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from.
It's 22.
For,
And
for the
he and
infill
I
housing program?
don't know, the
Yes,
word
sir,
got
for the
out,
$1 million.
and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think.
Affectionately known as Jack.
And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services, Dr.
Issued to
Mehmet
the forefirm of a week
and Acting Assistant Secretary of
is
HHS,
Department
Dr.
of
Dorothy.
Homes at like 20 years
Thank you
ago,
all.
Bobby.
Thank you, Dorothy, very much.
It's probably
The
20
meteoric
years
rise
ago
in
in
autism
New
is
York.
among the most alarming public health
I was a
developments
developer,
in history.
as you
There's
probably
never been
heard,
anything like
and I
this.
always had very strong
Just a few
feelings
decades
about
ago,
autism
1 in
and how it
10,000
happened
children had
and where
autism.
it came
So
from.
that's not a long time. And I've always heard, you know, they say a few,
Heath.
but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it. 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12.
It is
I
the
was told
first
that's in
doctor,
California where they have
but
for some
I
reason
think
a
it's
more
a lot
severe
less
problem.
time than that.
But whether it's 1 in 12 or
It
1 in
used
31,
to be
can you
1 in
imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in
then 1
10,000.
in 10,000.
And now we're at the level of 1
And
in
I would say
12
that's
in some
probably
cases for
18
boys.
years ago.
1 in 31
And
overall.
now it's
So, since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000, and then you go to
some
12,
reason or more severe less
you know
time
there's something
than
artificial. They're taking something.
But
And by the
whether
way, I
it's
think I
1
can
in
say
12
that there
or
are certain
1 you've
groups of
heard,
people that
can
don't
you
take
imagine
vaccines
that's
and don't take
2,000 in
any
1
pills
and
that have no
20,000
autism.
and 1 in 10,000
That have no
and
autism.
10,000.
Does that tell you something? That's currently. Is that a correct statement, by the way?
Since 2000, what is a rate of surge by much more than 400%? Instead of attacking those who
I hear
ask
no- I
questions,
heard none.
everyone should
See,
be
Bobby wants to
grateful
be
for
very
those
careful
who are
with what he
trying
says,
to
and he
get the
should, but I'm
answers
not
to
so
this
careful with
complex
what I say.
situation.
But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example,
Sock.
they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of
Doctors.
well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol.
AI might take their job.
During pregnancy can be associated
And all the nonsense
with
we
a
see on the
very
news every day.
increased
The over-the-top rhetoric,
risk of autism.
fabricated conspiracies,
So taking Tylenol
weird videos
is
of a US
not good.
president with a crown
All right, I'll say
on
it.
his
It's
head
not good.
flying a fighter jet and
For this
dumping
reason,
poop
they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's,
Sock,
for
they have
instance, in
essentially
cases
no
of extremely
autism. First,
high fever.
effective immediately, the FDA
That you feel you
will
can't
be
tough it out,
notifying
you can't do it.
physicians
I
that
guess
the
there's
use
that.
of doctors
It's a
has
small
said, well, let's see
number of
how
cases,
we
I
say
think.
that as said
But
a minute
if
in
you
a
can't
seat
tough
of
it out, if you
minute
can't
said
do it,
okay, which is basically commonly known as Tylenol.
That's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it.
By the way,
and you shouldn't
since
take it during the
2000,
entire
what is
pregnancy.
a
They may
rate
tell
of
you that
surge
toward the
by
end of the
much more
pregnancy
than
you shouldn't take it during the
instead
entire.
of it's
And you shouldn't give
actually
the
those
child the
who have
Tylenol
no
every time he
question.
goes. He's born and
I
he
heard
goes and has a
none.
shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol
Chain
to
of
that
custody.
child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that
You'll take a
they will
Tylenol,
maybe
but it'll
say
be very
a little bit later
sparingly.
date. But I think when you go for
It
the
can
shot,
be
you
a
do it over a
doctor, something-
5-time period. Take it over
Doctors.
5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they
CIA.
pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping. It looks like they're pumping into a horse.
Give a Tylenol
You have a little
to that
child,
custody.
little fragile child, and you get
All
a
pregnant
vat of
women should
80
talk
different
to their
vaccines,
doctors
I guess.
for
80
more
different
information about
blends, and they pump it in.
Department of Homeland
So-
Security.
Ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol, and on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff. You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that
Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years, and they see it so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't Accompany. Department of Homeland Security. Ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol and other vaccines. It would be good instead of one visit where they put the baby loaded up with stuff. You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times.
I don't think it was good for
That was, I've been so into this
But we had
backdoor.
an interesting evening and we learned a lot. And we're going to talk about that and I'll say a few remarks and then after that I'll ask the press to leave. The press has been very nice to us the last couple of months. They were great to us in terms of the foreign visits with China, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia.
Accompany.
And they were actually terrific.
Department of Homeland Security. Ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol and on the
They did a
vaccines.
great job over in China. And we did a great
VPN.
job in turning off wars. We stopped 8 wars. And we have 1 to go, as you probably know, and that'll get stopped also. But we've done a great job, so it's really been an honor to do it, and I did it with many of the people in this room. Every one of you I know, and every one of you I like our leaders, I like everybody. But I thought we'd have a discussion after the press
Backdoor.
leaves about what last night represented, and what we should do about it, and also about the shutdown, how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. That was a big factor, and they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor. But I don't know about that. But
And
I was
VPN.
honored that they said that. And
You
I
have
just wanna
been
thank
turning
everybody
off
for
the
being here, and a
water,
very
so
special
you've
thanks
got
to Vice
8
President
wars.
J.D. Vance,
8
who's doing a
wars.
terrific job.
And we want to go. If you're probably known, then it'll get South Tulsa over there.
That was the Senate leadership team.
Great
that has
job.
been working very hard, working really, I will tell you. nobody's
It's back
working any
to what
harder
last night
representing the American
represents
people,
and what
including
we should do
Senator
about
John
it,
Thune,
and to
John
also
Thune.
about the shutdown, how that relates to last night. I think if you read the posters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republican, and that was a big factor, and they say that I wasn't on the back, it war. Yes, the biggest factor, but I don't know about that, but I don't say that, and you have been winning.
Senator James Langford from one of my favorite states, 77 out of 77. 77 out of 77. Reagan was 56. That was the record. We got 7. We got every one of them. Thank you, Jim.
It's back to what last night's represents and why we should do about it, and to also let the shutdown how it relates to last night. I think if you read the posters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republican, and that was a big factor, and they say that I wasn't on the back, it war.
That's now officially the
Yes,
longest
the
shutdown
biggest
in American
factor,
history.
but I don't know about that,
Democrat
but they
radicals
don't
in
say
the
that.
Senate have shown zero interest in reopening the government.
It's back. It's the last of what it represents and why I wish it to be our last leader, and to also let thank the shutdown of the debates to last in the past.
Right now, we should have it done in a
Heath.
day. I've heard that about 4 times. I heard it after Kings, and they said I was a king. And I heard it after Kings. I heard it after a couple of other moments in time. And I said, no, I don't believe so. And now I heard it's after the election. I don't believe so. I think they will. I think the kamikaze pilots. I just got back from Japan and talked about the kamikaze pilots. I think these guys are kamikaze. They'll take down the country if they have to. So I don't think so. Millions of Americans are going to be without SNAP benefits. And I will say about SNAP benefits. So when I was president, we had $7 billion worth, and now they have many times that, because these benefits were given to anybody that asked, and they're up to, I hear, just many times, 47 billion.
It's back. It's the last.
it wasn't
I
the
don't
purpose of
know.
SNAP.
Even the exempt sentence.
People that really
Why
had
I wish it
problems,
to be
down and
our
out,
last
people
order
that really
and to
had
last
problems.
all the way.
But during Biden, they gave it to anybody that wanted
I've
it.
heard
I think
that
it's something
about
you have to
4
talk
times.
about, because
I
the
don't
numbers
know
are
if you have
incredible.
2 kings.
But
You
countless
haven't
public
said
servants
I
are
wasn't.
now not being paid, and the air traffic control system is under increasing strain. We must get the government back open soon, and really immediately. We have to get it open. We have the hottest economy we've ever had, and it's affecting the stock market now a little bit. but the stock market as of Friday has hit many record highs during the last 9 months, many. And it will again. This is just the beginning, because where these plants that are being built right now start opening up, we've never had anything like this as a boom. There's a construction boom right now, but that's going to be bigger than that. That's going to be an economic boom as soon as they open up. And it's going to be something special. We have car companies coming in.
Biden,
When I
they
was
gave
in
it to
Japan,
anybody
Toyota,
that
Mr.
won't have
Toyota, I
heard
said,
that
what's your
so
name?
badly
Toyota.
4 times.
I said, oh, you're rich.
Gray hat.
I said, how much of the
Being
company
hired
do you own?
in the air traffic
92.1%
control system is under increasing strain.
Lieutenant, I think
We must
covered
get the
this.
government back open soon.
Your Honor, these are the Tower Chief's
And
logs
really,
for both
maybe we
Guantanamo
have to
Bay
get
and Andrews
it
Air
up.
Force Base.
We have the
Guantanamo log
hottest
with no
economy
flight
we've ever had.
and the Andrews log with no flight landed at 2
It's a
a.m.
factor in the
Missed it
stock
off the
market
exhibit
down
We had no interest in
I
investing
don't
in this
understand.
country.
You're
But
admitting
the
evidence
stock
the flight would never
Christi
exist.
has hit many record highs. Who are the last 9
Defense will be calling Airman Cecil O'Malley and Airman Anthony Rodriguez.
And it will again.
We can't be
This is
extorted
just the
to
beginning, because
give
with these
$1.5
plants,
trillion
it's
to
being
people
brought
that came
right
into the
now.
country illegally
We've never
from
had it.
prisons, many drug dealers.
Great
A lot of
hat.
people came in from mental
Being hired in
institutions.
the air traffic
They
control
wanna give a
system
lot of
is
money to
under
people that came
increasing
in illegally. We
strength.
have to get them out. We can't, no country can sustain
We
it.
must get
It's
the
not
government
like an attack
back
on people.
open.
No country, these are not
Drone.
productive people. These are be anti-productive people. And we can be, all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than anybody, but we can't let that happen. It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it.
Firewall.
If you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the
Great
first time they haven't
people
done an
came
extension.
in from
Extensions are supposed to be
institutions.
easy,
Air
but if they
traffic
won't do an
control
extension, they won't
system
do any
is
bill,
under
even a
the
simple
increasing
bill.
the
And
strength.
we should do our own bills. We should get
You
out.
have
We should do our own bills. We should open
Minder.
up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass,
Hashing.
make our elections secure and safe, because
It's not
California is a
drone.
disaster. Many of the
We can
states
do
are
it.
disasters. But can you imagine
We
when
can
they
do
vote
it.
almost unanimously against voter ID?
XSS.
All we want is voter ID.
Firewall.
You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. It's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed, they recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption, because, you know, they pass through too many hands. I mean, you go in to vote, and they want your card. Even me, I went into Palm Beach. You go in to vote, they want your card, you're this, you're that. They say, I'm sorry to do this, sir, but I have to look at your identification. I said, that's all right.
Accesses.
I love that. But, you know, you're really not going to get away with
If you
much.
don't get it,
It was very,
you'll
very
never pass
professional,
that.
very good, the way it's supposed to be. But these
You'll
people
never
don't want
talk
that.
about
They have,
mail-in ballots.
legislation in California where it's
Vicious.
illegal to ask somebody for voter ID. If you ask somebody for voter ID,
We should
if you're
get you
official,
out.
you say,
We
"I'd like
should
to see
do
your
our
voter
own
ID,"
pills.
they can
We
arrest
should
you.
know my answer. We should
Okay?
start tonight
They can
with the
arrest you.
country's open
Because they wanna cheat.
congratulations.
And they get away with
Tail
it.
baiting.
And the Republicans let them get away with it. And we won't do that if we have the filibuster. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And we're going to see if we can sway, because I know we have a lot of, not a lot, I'd say half feel this way, maybe a little bit less than half. And it's time to have a really good talk. If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. And if they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation. They're not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3 to 40 years. There won't be
That's
one
illegal
bill
to
we're
ask
gonna pass.
somebody for a
Because
voter
the easiest
ID.
thing to pass
If you
is
ask
exactly
somebody
right
for
now
voter
what they won't
ID,
pass.
we should get
And they'll do that, and they'll wreak havoc.
Sock.
But let's assume they did it, they do it anyway. So it wouldn't matter. They're doing it
A
anyway.
fighter jet.
And, you know, I have a case where I have great U.S. attorneys that can't be approved because of the blue slips. The blue slips, I think you should terminate blue slips too. It's a mental termination because it's really a custom. But if you have a Democrat senator or two, two is bad, but it doesn't make any difference. If you have one senator who writes a negative letter on some great U.S. attorney, we had it in Manhattan, Southern District. Jay Clayton, one of the most respected lawyers in the whole country, by far, one of the most respected, and couldn't get approved. The courts approved it. The courts couldn't believe it. They did it like instantly. He went to the best schools, got the best marks, top of his class, everything was perfect. I mean, he was like lived the perfect life. Went to Sullivan and Cromwell, almost immediately became the head of Sullivan and Cromwell. You know, the most prestigious law firm, I would say, in the country, just about. Whether it's Sullivan or two or three I could name, but Sullivan, I would say, really, maybe number one. He was the head of Sullivan and Cromwell for like 20 years. He went to the SEC, was flawless. He did it for me. He was the SEC chairman. He was flawless. Then he went to Apollo, where he was the chairman of Apollo, and he was flawless. Everything went good. The stock went through the roof and everything. I asked him to go to the Southern District.
They'll recap.
And he said, "I'll do what you'd like to do, sir."
So let's assume they get it. They're doing it anyway.
Schumer didn't approve it.
So
Best
wouldn't
student,
matter.
best schools, everything. He's like flawless.
They're doing
And
it
the
anyway.
courts actually said, "You're not approving Jay Clayton."
And you know, in case where I have
Courts
great
actually
interests, attorneys, I would tell Big Taylor he would pop a thing, so let him get away with it.
Top colleges.
And we won't do that if we have to tell him, so we're gonna talk about that a little bit.
Or there's a lot of
And we're gonna see if we can swing, cause I know we have a lot of, let's say half feelings when maybe nobody less than.
So the only people I can get approved are Democrats.
And it's time to have a little good talk.
even from 3.
If I thought that they weren't going to pass to fellow us, you can bring it out. They're gonna pass it within the first hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power, and that's it. I would tell Big Taylor he would pop a thing, so let him get away with it. And we won't do that if we have to tell him.
Doing so would
just
restore
gonna-
appropriate
we're gonna
procedural
talk about that a
deliberations
little
and
bit.
enactment of taxes on trade, benefiting the millions of Americans whose livelihood depend on international commerce, and the certainty that supports investment in our economy. Members of Congress continue to hear from farmers, workers, business owners about the harm inflicted by broad-based tariffs and the associated economic uncertainty. American families are facing thousands of dollars in higher prices.
Man, this is strange. And he was no good. I fired him. He was really not much of a Republican. The recommendation of
I
that.
wouldn't tell Big Taylor that he would pop the thing, so let's take it away with it.
But when I saw two, when I saw
point
the two
detection
senators from
and
Virginia
response.
gave glowing marks, Tim, I said, let me see this. I read the most beautiful letters I've ever seen. I said, I called him up. I said, sorry, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. And, but it's a horrible thing. This is a horrible thing. Because I have the right to pick judges, and I have the right to pick U.S. attorneys. And this takes away the right from
Right now, now he got 2 letters of approval.
I don't know that I've ever seen that
before. And when I said 2 Democrats approved him, I had a fire because I figured if 2 Democrats approved him, they wrote wonderful letters.
And it'll be impossible to
I found that, man, this is strange.
And
he was, and I wait to detect him.
They want at least five justices.
Did he respond? So he walks 10 to 9. I said, let me see this. I read the most beautiful letters.
Maybe the week
I've ever seen it. I said, I call him up. I said, sorry. You fired. Get that out of here. And it's harder to no slips is a horrible because I have the right to pick judges. And I have the right to pick U.S. attorneys. And this takes away the right from, and I waited to detect him. They were at least five just. Now did he respond? So I just walked 7:10 to 9. I said, let me see this. Detection.
Every single thing that you can imagine that is good and all good for the country. And there'll be no reason to. If we don't do that,
we've given it a new name. It's a three-name.
They're not doing much, and they're in power.
Even semiconductor manufacturing is rapidly returning to the United States. NVIDIA and TSMC have just produced the first state-of-the-art Blackwell chip that was 100% made in the USA. In fact, Jensen was a...
And I waited to protect him. They were five at least if I would just pick up electronics. Now did he respond? Very good or bad situation.
No tax on tips, no tax on...
So I just watched a detection. Every single thing that you can imagine that it's good and open for the country, and there we know it is here. If we don't do that, people say they're not doing much, and they're in power. So the good news is we're getting the great, big, beautiful bill, and it's the greatest thing we've ever done. And the smartest thing with John and you're the employer of the European Union. Who's so good, Mike Jackson?
We're good friends, but
we did.
It's a tremendous mistake. Really, it would be a
and I waited.
Mistake, it's time. It's time. If I thought they weren't going to approve, I'd sort of be with you.
Detection. Every single thing that you can imagine that it's good and open for the country.
Get any semblance of control.
And there we know it is here. If we don't do that, people say they're not doing much and they're empowered.
We'll have this country so perfect.
So the good news of this is we're getting of the great beautiful bill.
A group of senators or a group of...
And that's the greatest thing we've ever done. And the smartest thing with John, and you're the employer.
Otherwise, we're just going to sit around and
you're the employer.
All day long, and they're highly unrealistic. Highly unrealistic. Many of them are radical left.
It's time. It's time.
So I want to thank
if I thought
they took the baby for a walk this morning. Oh man! I mean, she was cooing. Loved it.
Every single within that
so nice. Still
don't have that good, and it goes in this country get any semblance of control, and there we know it is here. So if we don't do
and if
that,
you're wondering, yeah, Preston West is our chief photographer. He's been out there all week getting these great vantage points.
The purpose of this is we're getting the great beauty for self-roop of self-roop of self-roop.
Actually, very smart. The press doesn't like it when I call them very smart. They think I'm not supposed to call them.
And they're highly unrealistic. Highly unrealistic. Many of them are wrapped in a left.
And of course, we can't forget about your command triad aboard the George Washington.
So I want to say, if I thought then we're going to talk and prove, I want to think the press start it and be with you. Pretty good.
Captain Timothy Waits.
So really well, and that far if you're able to protect it with every single way to be, I don't care. Imagine. Don't have too much good in a place where this country is in the semblance of control. And there we know it is here. Talk about his homework that very quickly. Without tax, souls.
JD doesn't behave like that.
JD buds into conversation. I want to have that for at least a couple of days, okay, Jay?
The press is what I get what I call a very smart. I think I'm not supposed to call this smart. And they're highly unrealistic, highly unrealistic. We have questions.
I want to thank you all very much. Thank you to the press, and you can go
fact,
to speak.
during
Thank
the
you. I'm going to
main
Miami
are wrapped in
to
a
make a
whip.
speech today.
We're there. So it's time.
Thank you.
It's time.
Mr. President, you sound very frustrated by
So
last
he's
night's
here
election.
and he's got about 6 people on each side. I think I'm not supposed to call this smart. And they're highly unrealistic, highly unrealistic. We have questions. Thank you all very much. Thank you to the press, and you can go back to the killer. I'm going to try and wrap it to make you speak today.
Almost like professional criminal behavior.
Communications assistance for law enforcement.
The way they're driving.
I think I'm not supposed to call this smart, and they're highly unrealistic, highly unrealistic.
And all the nonsense
We have communications assistance for law enforcement.
The weird videos of a U.S. president having take their job on his head, flying a fighter jet and dumping poop every day.
We have no name. Several.
Of a U.S. president with a crown on his head, flying a fighter jet and dumping poop.
This presentation.
We have no now.
So here, when the allegation came to our office, we decide to investigate. We evaluate the allegation itself, and if the allegation is eligible, we take it to the next step, which is plan to the investigation, and after that we review the records and the document associated with this investigation, take it then to the interview level and analyze the evidences, and after that we write the recommendation and findings, and the recommendation.
Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act.
Walk you through the timeline of events.
C2 server.
So in April 13, 2022, the Federal Emergency Management Agency flood map released, later concealed in applicant's
when the allegation came to
on October
not see
2022, FEMA flood maps adapted by the city after public hearing. In September 27, 2023, incentive application submitted by Elevate LLC.
Tailgating.
In February 2024, first ordinance reading with FEMA justification. The second reading happened in April 23, 2024. Second ordinance reading included retail activations justification and removal of
when the allegation came to on October 1922 FEMA flood maps adapted by the city, not seeing any 22 FEMA flood maps adapted by the city after public
They also brought home gold, silver, and
in
bronze.
September 2017-2023 and SIF incentive application submitted by Levy.
What I'm calling your name.
Farming.
We want you, yeah.
August 2024.
So we're going to, what are you waiting on? Okay. All right, Carolyn Atwood, Arwood, excuse me.
November 2024.
Sam Arwood.
Plaintiff filed the legal action.
Doc Kennedy.
In 2025, city leadership testified under oath that the FEMA portal, the FEMA document, was altered.
Army.
2025 also, city leadership testified under oath that they had informed some of the city council member and the mayor.
Rat.
August 2025, the city auditor's office issued a
Mitigation.
memorandum to the City Council recommending an independent external investigation in the best interest of the city.
Informants, some of
The key finding
rat
here was the FEMA portal. The FEMA document appears to have been altered, so we reached out a reasonable basis for that. Audience language, presentation, and reason for award shifted between readings. City Auditor's
Detection.
Office found reasonable basis for fraud concerns.
25th in
Recommendation,
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
we recommend that an independent external law
Martha
firm
will tell you a little bit about
be
this and
hired
read the
to investigate
appreciation
this
of these
matter.
folks.
City Manager
Thank you, Mayor.
Peter, by
We're
far,
very proud
you've been the
today
best city
to
manager
acknowledge this
that I've
group
worked for, and
because
I
this is
hope
something
and pray
here
that
to
you stay another 5 years.
mid-hour.
Congratulations.
So in 1985 in St. Louis, Missouri, a group of 7 men and women formed the National Senior Olympics Organization, or the NSOO.
You were a star in San Antonio. Keep it up. Do a great job. And congratulations.
I want to congratulate Peter on his
Please be sure
5
to
years
plan
at the city.
accordingly.
Our 301 call center will be
you.
taking a break on Christmas Day and New Year's Day.
Councilwoman Campos.
Animal care services will also be
you, Mayor.
closed on December 25th,
so,
26th, and January 1st. Essential services like fire, police, and
Government
gas will remain open.
Communications Headquarters.
Our public works team will be on call to handle any urgent issues. Solid waste
typical
services,
of
including the
female
landfill and
document
transfer
appears
station, will
to
be
the
closed on
original
Christmas Day
pieces or
and New Year's Day. If your trash pickup lands on these
CIA.
days, it'll ship to the
Do you normally recommend an external investigation, or what is your
Communication.
normal process?
Detection.
I think it depends on the type of fraud that we're talking about. We typically get about a dozen allegations
This
a
year's
year,
fiscal year 25
which
proposed
a small
budget
fraction
focuses
of
on the
which
city council and
become
community
actual
priorities.
instances of
It has
fraud.
extreme property tax relief for
Oftentimes,
working families and seniors,
it's
and it eliminates
situations
fees.
where we've got
The focus of this budget is
someone who's not
support
anonymous,
city
who's
services,
actually somebody we can go
safety,
to and get
police,
additional
fire
information.
operations.
In those
And it fully
cases,
funds
we
our
can
street
complete those
maintenance program,
investigations. Sometimes they
especially
have
neighborhood street
complete
reconstruction.
documentation.
This budget also for the
They
fifth
have
year in a
pictures.
row
They have
focuses on
things that allow us to make a complete and accurate determination, and therefore we don't need to go to outside counsel in those
Lee
situations.
was a female model.
what
The
was the
female
situation in
document
this case?
appears, and then
I think
Italy.
this is a level of expertise and
SQL
just capacity.
injection.
For one thing, we've had an individual that's been frozen in our role as an auditor position, frozen since the beginning of the year. And also,
we were
don't have the
always
capacity
scheduled.
or the
We were always planning to have the
ability
debate
to,
about the COVID era subsidies and all these other
ask for
issues in October,
information
November,
through
December.
what they call the subpoena process.
The COVID era
A lot
subsidies
of
don't
other
expire until
cities,
the
like
end of
the city of
December.
Boston,
There are all sorts of
and other
discussions going
cities
on
have
about
the
that, all
ability to
kinds of
subpoena
ideas.
documentation.
I could
We don't have
give you
that
dozens of them
capability.
that have been
So
collected just
that would
in the
be-
House Republican
Okay,
Conference.
so that would be one
There
of the
needs to be
reasons why
massive
you're
reform and
recommending
give the
that it
income
be done
caps.
by
There needs
an
to be the
external
elimination of fraud, waste, and abuse in
investigation.
that program, which we think.
That is
Firm.
yes.
Okay, and what about the process of actually reporting it to the?
And those C was a
the law
female model
enforcement
of
or
the
law
female
enforcement
daughter
agency?
in this case.
Yes, that's also
And
an
Esther,
obligation
we have a
when we
question.
see
For one
fraud,
thing,
we
we've
wanna
had
make
an
sure that
individual
there's
that's been
follow-up, so we
frozen
do
in our
follow up
role
with
as an
law
auditor, a
enforcement.
position
And
frozen
what-
since the beginning of
Was
the
this case recommended?
detection.
Yes, it was, yes.
It was, you did file a complaint with the law agency, or?
Yes, we, the three of us, actually, Amir, myself, and Samantha Chapa, met with investigators. That's correct.
Well, do you want to let us know who the investigators are, or do you want to?
Well, at this
We
point, I think
prefer not to?
Yeah, if it's an ongoing investigation, I don't want to
Also,
impair
and as we
the
have a
investigation.
question, we have
So by
something we've had
disclosing
in
who
the
they
individual
are,
that's been frozen in our role as an important position.
Well,
Frozen since the
we
beginning of
did
this
discuss
case
this
recommended.
earlier, and I wasn't sure why you were not part
Detection.
of that discussion in our executive
Yes, it was.
discussion. Were you aware that
We were waiting
Detection.
in the actual waiting room.
you were waiting
Yes,
for us
yes.
to bring you? Okay. Well, I'm going to wait to see what my other colleague members have to say.
Chain of custody.
As an association and a membership.
How are you doing? You waited all day. I know.
Yes.
Were you invited to the executive session?
No formal invitation was extended to me, but we were waiting in the event that we may be needed.
You just saw it on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He said in there that y'all did interviews. Who did y'all interview?
Numerous people, especially the alleged person that's making the allegations. We extended several interviews to that individual. Who are some of the other people we did? Again, Amir led this investigation.
And all the nonsense we see on
We were waiting to text
Basically,
you.
we met with individuals
Aware of
for
because
You were
we're just
waiting for us to
bypassing
bring
the funding availability through
We're
these state
going to be
agencies.
waiting for
So
you.
you met with
Then
the chief?
we're missing the boat.
Yes, sir.
So I want to make sure that
We're
we're doing
going
that. And then
to wait
also,
to see
we're
what
starting
my
the
other
process for the
colleagues members have to say.
2028 plan.
Accused
We've got to
Chain
make sure our
of
projects,
custody.
our stormwater projects are on there
testimony
in order to be
that
able to
made
be eligible
under
for those grants.
How are
Now
you
they're
doing
matching
it?
grants. That's why
Detection.
I worked so hard to put the
Yes, it
stormwater
Okay.
1
Yes.
cent sales tax.
I don't understand why y'all
was.
can't tell us what law enforcement.
You did.
being
Now
mentioned.
we complained.
Public
The
hearing.
law
And
is-
item number 13, I don't know how
which
that
is
a
would
resolution
impede their
authorizing a developer
investigation.
participation
The
agreement
three of
with
us, actually,
LSK
Ken and
Development.
myself and Samantha Chopper met with investigators.
Information now, but yes.
All right,
Correct.
good morning, or now, good afternoon.
Well,
Mike Dice,
do you
Development
want to
Services.
let
We
us
have
know
today,
who the
first item
investigators
is
are, or do you
a
want to?
participation
Okay.
agreement
and
with,
did the FBI look at
for
the-
Azali
at the
Estates for the
evidence, or what
oversize
y'all had?
and overdepth
Yes, ma'am. We showed them the
Communications
videotapes,
Assistance
the,
for Law
testimony.
Enforcement
We showed them
Act.
other documentation and evidence that we had as well.
And
Yeah, the altered document, the yes.
Detention for the
And-
purposes
what was there?
It's still
chain
under
of custody.
review. They don't, to my knowledge, and I don't know if law enforcement's here, but they don't typically would tell you if they're doing an investigation.
Okay. What was the deciding factor that you thought there was fraud? The thing that made you say, okay, we've got to bring this forward, because I don't want to accuse anybody of anything unless I've got lots of evidence, and I see you're wanting to have an investigation. I get that. But I just want to make sure in my mind that you feel like you've got the things that you need, because I'm looking at this and I'm not sure.
Well, there's
Man in the
reasonable-
middle.
That's the reasonableness that we're
Rat.
looking at this, and the fact that
Look
we've
at
seen
the
where the documents
evidence
change
or
over
what
time, we
you'll
could
had.
actually, we can be glad to do that at a
Yes,
future
ma'am,
council.
that we showed a
And did you
mitigation
base it a lot
assistance for
off
law
of the
enforcement
videos that
and
you saw?
other
Is that what you're basing
documentation
a lot off
and
of?
A lot of
evidence
it
that
was
we
where
had
sworn
as well.
testimony that people said that there was
And the altered document,
activity
the
that was
attention for
fraudulent.
the
I mean, it
purposes.
actually coming forth and saying
What
that
was there?
altered documents that
It's
occurred.
still
I mean,
clear of
it
custody.
was pretty evident.
Okay, and if
To
you
my
talked
knowledge,
to the
and I don't
lawyer,
know
Doug
if
Ellison.
law enforcement's
Did I
here,
talk to them?
but
No.
they
No,
don't
you haven't
typically
had a
would tell you
conversation.
if they're
You know,
doing
I-
an
not legally,
investigation.
that's for sure. Now, I talked to him way
Okay.
a year ago or so because he represented me in a case.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bonetta.
Protesting citizens.
Well, the man in the middle, that's the reason. One is that we're
Miles, this is
acting
an
at this
ongoing
and the
civil
fact
suit, right?
that we've seen the evidence change or what you've had.
Yes, the civil suit of Ajit David
We
versus
can.
the
We
city
glad
of
to do
Corpus
that.
Christi versus Mayor Paulette Guajardo.
Yes, we've been
and
helpful that we
versus
showed
Elevate
that mitigation
QOF,
systems
LLC.
for law.
Elevate QOF
Mitigation.
just joined within the last month. They intervened in the case.
Okay, so, and you're saying that you obtained this information from the depositions?
We obtained some of the information we used for investigation
You
based
said you saw
Yes.
testimony, so did you see
Yes.
the transcripts, or did you see?
both. We
You saw the
both.
transcripts, and how did you?
Mitigation
how did you acquire that
joined
information?
A
within
lot
the
of that
last month
information was
that
provided by
intervened
the
within in
alleged
the case.
person.
By the plaintiff?
Yes.
So
But we didn't
because
have
he
any reason to
represented
believe it
me
was
in the
altered
case.
or anything
Okay,
to that
okay.
effect.
Okay,
So
thank
the
you.
plaintiff provided you with recorded
Thank you.
material and the transcripts
Council
from the
Member
depositions.
Bonetter.
That is correct.
In an ongoing
Well, demands submittal. That's the reason. One is that we're asking this and the fact that we've seen the evidence change
an
or what you
unpleasant
have.
tool. Then he voted for the 13th time yesterday to use the tool
we
to keep the
this.
government
We've
closed.
led to do that.
I'm kind of curious as to
Well,
why
Versus
food pantries in Senator Whitehouse's home state of Rhode Island are getting slammed.
before
Democrats call that leverage. Families in Delaware are making, quote, backup plans, according to the news, just to get groceries.
depositions from the plaintiff
Democrats
that the
call
plaintiff
that
provided for
leverage.
you.
It's not
Have
leverage.
you seen any depositions
It's
that have been
picking
provided by
pain.
the other parties?
Again, we're suggesting that outside legal
Yes,
counsel look
so
at this.
because he
We
represented me
have
in the
enough
case.
when we did
Okay.
So no.
So
to be
thank you.
reasonable.
So no,
basis.
you have not seen that.
Have I seen
You
other?
You line
requested
up,
any other
provide you
depositions
with
from the other
record
parties?
material
From my
and the
knowledge, or-
transfer of
I
the
don't know.
members
Did you-
on that her.
You have not. Okay.
And
So they don't
ongoing.
exist at this time. How much money are we appropriating
Well,
for this
the man's
investigation?
submittal. That's the
my knowledge,
reason.
there's
One
nothing
is that
other
we're
than our
asking
time.
this and
No,
the fact
but
that
you're
we see
recommending
evidence
that we
change
use
or what
outside
you
counsel.
said.
Have we determined a budget?
And department,
No,
a
we
CISC.
haven't.
Have you talked to legal? So you haven't talked to legal about that?
A CISC for all the facts
Okay.
have been released based on
Amir, how
because
long have you
you've
been
only
employed with the
looked
city?
at depositions from
7
the
months.
plaintiff.
So
Mitigation.
the investigated with the fraud was brought to you. I saw in your notes here. I don't have a copy of it. Was August of 24.
Yes, but again, we're understaffed. We are doing a lot of other investigations too. We're doing audit work, as you all know. So we don't get to them right away.
So, Amir, when did you first
Mitigation
When were you first made
investigated
aware
the
of
fraud was brought to you.
When were you first made aware?
I saw in your notes here.
Of this complaint where you felt
I don't have a copy of
investigate?
that. August 24.
In January?
In February.
In February. Okay, so you started working in this in February. So when did you obtain the depositions?
Recently, as George explained, the fraud investigation went through many phases, right? And we evaluated this phase by phase. So since I started working with the
In
city,
February.
I was aware about
In
the
February.
investigation,
Department.
and we started this investigation from there.
And you made
Mitigation.
This, you made as a certified fraud investigator.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you feel a crime has been committed?
The document was altered.
Okay, so do you feel that there was a crime that was committed?
Again, the document was altered, so we stick with the findings. The findings are clear. The document was altered, and the decision was taken based on
And it's
this.
So
thought
if you don't
that
feel,
this
if you
is
feel,
no form
if you don't feel there
there,
was a
and
crime
you made
committed, then
it.
why would you go to the FBI?
Mitigation.
For consultation.
It's a certified fraud
And
investigator.
how did they respond?
Yes, sir.
You may
Now
need to
do
ask
you
them,
feel
sir.
the crime has been
Okay,
committed?
But you're proposing that we have an investigator come in to pursue that. Why wouldn't we refer this to the chief of police?
Mitigation.
I mean, Miles, wouldn't the chief of police be the authority for this organization, for the city?
If you're looking at if you're looking at criminal activity, it would be law enforcement. It'd be either the chief of police or the FBI, depending on whether it's federal or state that you're looking at.
And
if
it's
you're
thought
looking at
that
civil
this is
type
no
fraud,
form.
That would be
You don't know there was a
private
crime
type
you made.
attorney that would pursue civil type fraud. However, civil type
Why
fraud
would you
that
go
was
to the
being-
FBI?
upon which
Mitigation.
the city was being defrauded.
For
That's gonna-
consultation.
There's no problem with us pursuing that. I mean, that would be
Communications.
normal, and that's part of the lawsuit as well.
Closing
I mean, if
that we have an
free to
investigator come
depose all
in to pursue
participants in the
that.
lawsuit about any civil fraud.
Why wouldn't we refer
there's
this
about-
to the chief of
I mean,
police?
I think we've got 3 attorneys
Mitigation.
involved in the city, plus the
Mitigation.
plaintiff has an attorney, plus the other
Mitigation.
party has, I believe, 2 attorneys.
Mitigation.
So why would we refer it out when there's an active civil investigation of which more depositions have to be completed? There's more testimony that has to be completed, additional evidence that has to be completed, and we've only heard from one party that basically is in an active lawsuit against the city, and we we've only obtained information with this. I have a problem with the impartiality there.
Well,
I question it.
Okay. If I may respond.
Yes, I have that expectation.
Yes, it is a federal document that we're talking about, a FEMA document, so we can naturally
part of the lawsuit
in
as
that
well.
situation, potentially. The other note, it's not just one in
Closing,
plaintiff.
if that
The
we
city
have an
has testimony
investigative to come
that
in
says
all
in,
to pursue the lawsuit
that
about
there
any
was
civil
altering of a
fraud.
document, so it's pervasive, it's not
Why
just coming
wouldn't
from
we?
one
I
individual.
mean, there's
So that's
this
the
to the
reason
chief
why-
of police.
Do you feel that a crime has been committed?
I mean, I think we're going to agree with him.
So, and I'm just kind of curious why
He's
we wouldn't go to
involved
the
in
chief
the
of
city
police.
press.
We have in other
The
situations
mitigation,
that,
the
have
mitigation,
warranted that
the
for
mitigation.
like a departmental situation, not a
He
third
has,
party.
I believe,
Yeah,
two
I mean, I
attorneys.
would just think, particularly that the civil suit's going on, why wouldn't we
Mitigation,
go to the chief of police
when
here
we refer
who
out
has
when
resources,
there's
who
an
has an-
active civil
who has an internal
investigation
affairs
of which
department,
more depositions
and
have to
has
be
at times
completed.
referred it out to
There's
other
more
parties because he's
testimony
the
that
authority
has
on
to
law
be
enforcement here in
completed.
the city. At least within our
The
organization.
additional evidence.
The 8th largest city in the state of Texas.
Yes, and like I said, we have in other situations.
Why wouldn't we do it in this one?
I mentioned this is a federal situation, I think. We can certainly reach out to the local CCPD. Again, we were just reaching out yesterday on another allegation, so we do have that contact.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilman Scott.
Cousins under the law, which is a form of obligation.
Appreciate the report out of the committee. I would like to
No.
have seen the report. That's okay. I don't want to impede
What I would
your initiative.
Mitigation.
It does seem to me that the proper
Yes, and like I said, we
disposition
have
of
in
this
other
is to
situations.
both the chief of police and the FBI.
Why wouldn't we do it in this
and then
one?
They
I
run
mentioned
their
the
course
federal.
on their investigations.
This is
But,
a federal
my only-
situation, I
If
think.
there is
We
the
can
civil
certainly
fraud.
reach out to the local
And is this a
CCPD.
civil fraud issue? Or
Again,
is it a
we were
criminal
just
fraud
reaching out
issue?
yesterday on another
Additional
allegation.
city manager appointees are opposite.
So we do have that
So
contact.
So each council member gets one appointee.
Yes.
They're not voted
I
on, they're just appointed by
appreciate
that council
that.
member.
Correct. Well,
Thank
yeah,
you.
they're
I can't
just
make it
appointed.
determinate. I'll defer that to the city attorney.
Thank you.
Miles, based
Yeah,
on-
I mean,
have you
I don't
seen
think
this
anybody's
report?
voted against anybody's
Mitigation.
appointee if it's their
I've only
appointee.
seen the
It does seem
one-page
to me that
summary.
the
Just
problem.
want to get Barb
Brazelton off of there.
Yes, and like I
but,
said, I wouldn't.
I mean,
This is a
No, I'm
You
kidding.
do it in this one.
fraud.
I mentioned her
Potential
court
civil fraud
owner
issue, Or is
investigate
it a potential criminal fraud
Mitigation.
issue? Or is it both? Or is it neither? Or do you have enough information to answer that?
The determination of whether an item is fraud depends on, first and foremost, on the intent, or it depends on the intent of the person proffering the document. And it also depends on the materiality.
That-
So fraud has to be intentional
CIA.
and material. And it also depends on the entity that receives the document knowing, consider it like materiality, considering it to be material, but
addressed
also
in federal
not
government, not
having
quite
knowledge
passed yet. And
otherwise.
so this last legislative session for Texas in
You
Senate
don't
Bill
From
96.
mitigation,
I don't
or is it
understand what you
neither?
just said.
Or do you have
I
enough
apologize.
information to answer that? The determination of whether an item is fraud depends on the first and foremost on the intent. Depends on the intent of the person proffering the document, and it also
The
depends on the
inflation factor
material
is the
of that.
calculation based. Well, that
And I
our
recognize your
ordinance-
determination
fraud
is
has
this
to
is
be
worthy of
intentional.
additional review or investigation.
Yes, sir.
My sense is the proper channel is the chief of police and the FBI, and that if you
Military.
submitted this to the FBI, then check that box, and I think you should submit it to the chief of police to investigate.
We'd be more than happy to do so. Thank you.
And then what I don't, again, I'm trying to learn. If there are civil concerns, that the city attorney ought to weigh in. But I also, I guess I also understand the potential of impartiality issue. And so I'd like you to maybe weigh in on that.
Well,
I mean, they're thinking we should go get another lawyer from another town.
if there's fraud that vitiates a transaction upon which the city needs to be, from which the city wants to, it feels a need that that it was material to the issue, and the city believes that the transaction is defective because of
Yes, sir.
fraud that was conducted in the transaction, we're perfectly capable of handling those allegations. Law enforcement determinations of fraud
the
should be
entire
handled
material,
exclusively by
and it
law
also
enforcement
depends
agencies.
on the entity
Not
that
want to be
receives the
interfering with
document,
those law
knowing
enforcement
and consider,
investigations should they
like,
be occurring.
consider materiality, considering it to be material, but also not having knowledge
This ought to be
otherwise.
referred to the FBI and the chief of police, and that the audit committee ought to solicit an update in 30 days, although I'm laughing because we're having a hard time meeting, right? I guess, yeah, you guys are working hard on that, and that's not your fault. I did one other thought. You said it's part of a scheme. Was that language that came out of one of your interviews, or was that come from city staff?
That came from city staff in one of the interviews with leadership.
Law enforcement determinations of fraud.
City managers, but Peter by far,
The
you've been
entire
the best city
military,
manager
but it
that
also
I've
denies
worked
an
for,
identity
and I
that
hope
no
and
one
pray
sees in the
that,
documents,
you stay
knowing
satisfied.
and consideration should
Congratulations,
likely
Peter, on 5 years as city
Cite
manager of
threat
Corpus
that led you to
Christi.
believe,
I'm not
but to
surprised to
recommend
hear that you've built an
hiring
excellent team and
an
you're doing
outside attorney.
outstanding work. You were a star
I
in
guess I
San
haven't seen your full
Antonio.
report.
Keep it up.
Maybe
Do
that's
a great
intentional that
job.
we're not
And
supposed to.
congratulations.
I want to congratulate Peter on his 5 years.
Okay, there's no background in addition to that. Okay, that's fine. You said you have talked to the FBI. All right, so Councilmember, my take is that I don't want to get in the way, but it sounds like the answer, you're doing what the answer is, which is
city
it needs to be
managers,
turned over
but
to
Peter
the
by
FBI.
far, you've been the best
I
city
would add the
manager
chief of police
that I've
because
worked
he has an
for,
internal
and
investigation
I
unit.
hope and pray
I would also
that
ask that
you stay
share
another
it with the
5
city
years.
attorney.
Congratulations, Peter, on 5
I've
years
listened to you
as
3
city
times now. I'm
manager
not
of
completely
Corpus
sure where that's
Christi.
going.
I'm not surprised
But
to
I do
hear
also
that you've
think there
built
needs to
an
be some
excellent
sort of
team and you're doing outstanding work.
CIA.
You're a star in
And
San
maybe it's straight to the
Antonio.
council. I'm not trying
Keep it
to
up. Do a
circumvent
great job.
the city council.
And congratulations.
That's
I want to
what
congratulate
audit
Peter
committees-
on his 5 years
It's
at the
part of the
city of
city council that's designed to, to manage the audit structure. So that's my thought.
And I believe that's intentional.
May
Maybe
I ask
we're
what
not
follow-up
supposed
you were
to.
thinking of? Yes.
I think there's no background in the addition of
I know
that.
it's my second time today. Look,
Okay.
this is good. I
That's
don't
fine.
know. I think we would like.
You
a
said
sense-
you
I think
have to
council,
talk
I think
to
I would
the
like
FBI.
a sense that we're staying on top
All
of it.
right.
Is the FBI investigating? At some point, the FBI has got to tell
My
us.
take is
right?
that I don't
you
want
think?
to get in the way,
We're moving
but it
forward on a
sounds
cause
like
of
the
action,
answer
or
I'm
we've
doing
closed
with
the
the
case.
answer
Background
is
in today's
I think we'd all
workshop
like to know that.
beginning there,
CIA
what is the
maybe
type A, type
straight
B
to
anyway,
council.
and the boards that are appointed and what governance
And
do
not
they have
trying
to
to
follow,
circumvent a
and
city
state
council,
rules that
but
we have to follow,
just
and
doing
use of the
that.
sales tax. That's the first part of the presentation.
Product
And then the second part
is
will be
council.
the baseline concepts for these two sales tax that the council collectively agreed to. Maybe there was no vote per se, but it seemed the consensus of the council back in February was.
Clarification, much appreciated.
Councilman Hernandez.
I think, I'm not sure if this is a criminal aspect, to where, and I'm assuming you, when you had communication to the FBI, they don't tell you anything. But
know that.
I'm not sure if it's criminal.
See,
in the sense
I am,
of that
and we
aspect.
try to increase the chance,
However,
please,
I do know
through
that
his
the,
investigative media,
This is highly politically charged.
and not try to circulate a
With
city
very
council is
politically
going
connected
from where
individuals
it's going, if it's not
involved
going
in this
the front.
aspect. And so,
like that box too.
the idea for a third
And
party
then
outside
finally,
the city
I
limits
think we would
gives
look
it
to the city attorney to
doesn't have any
kind of
connections
help
with
us
anybody in
understand the
Corpus
civil
Christi.
fraud concept through all of this.
Unbiased.
That's what I mean.
Position.
Thank you for the
FBI.
clarification,
This is considered a hardship location, and they're
Appreciate
required to stay here 3 years, and then they can pick where they want to go from here.
How
So I
about
know
the
we have
councilman
constant
and
rotation
the
of FBI agents here.
I'm not sure of this as a criminal aspect, to where.
It's
And
unfortunate
I'm
that's the
assuming
case, but that's
you know
how they
when you had a
that's how they see
communication to
this
FBI
area here in
that
South Texas.
you know
Based on your recommendation, trying to have somebody from outside the city who has no connection to anybody
like
here
that
locally
box to the
would
idea
probably be
for
the
a
best
third
option.
and then ultimately city, I
make
think
that
we would look
recommendation.
into a city attorney doesn't have any connections with us
Mayor.
and understand
And I
the
would
civil
agree with
fraud
Councilman
concept.
on this.
We all have us
It may not
unbiased.
rise to the criminal
That's
as a
what I
criminal
mean,
case.
precision.
And
Thank
I'm
you
not
for the
sure
clarification.
I know it's a civil case now, and it's an
This is
ongoing civil
considered a
case.
hardship location,
But it's
and they are
definitely a
appreciative
case
of a
that
quad to stay here 3 years, and then they can pick where they
tarnishes
want to go from here.
our proceedings, here,
Drone.
how we do business in council. So I would also strongly recommend that we do use an external investigation because, just the perception of it just being independent.
You
it
know,
just would
do
be,
how we do business in council.
worthy, especially
So I would
with,
also strongly
it concerning the mayor, the city manager,
who has
some
no
previous city
connection
count-
to
some
anybody
present city
that
council
walks to the idea
members.
of
So
where the
I
first
think just,
option then ultimately
for
said, I
everybody's sake,
think we would look
right,
into a
I
city
would
attorney
agree.
doesn't have any connections. I think rat.
Thank you, Mayor. I want you to know that we were well prepared. We're a hard.
Unfortunately, this whole thing has become very public, and I use the word unfortunate because right now my interest really is finding ways to
In point
unite,
detection
move
and
forward, become
response.
cohesive. There's so much unrest right now. That's my interest in using those words. With that being said,
The
it's
mayor,
hard to
the
be
city
someone who
manager,
sits
who
on
has
the
no
audit committee
connection to
and receive a
anybody
memo
that
like we
wants to be
did
the
from your
idea or
department
so, where the
and
first
do
decision,
nothing.
then all that
So
I
the
said,
next
I
automatic
think we
thought
would
is
lie
what
into
do
a
we need
city
to do?
attorney
So
doesn't
we bring
have
this
any
forward
I'm
for this
glad to
discussion
have this.
to try to determine because
Thank you very
your
much
memo
for the
basically
way.
said based on
I'm
information that's
fortunate
crossed
that
your
this whole
department,
thing has become
there's
very
reason
complicated.
to believe there could be perhaps
I'm going to use
failure
the
of
word
control.
unfortunate because I'm going to
It will reach
right now
every
my
corner
interest.
of upstate New
The normal
York
flow
and across
chart of
This
how we
pin book
would do
really
We are
something.
here
is
to fight
finding
for
the
the
ways
democratic
to
bill,
use it.
We're
farm,
talking about
serve, and raise families
to
across New York and our
work with
nation.
local business
They are the backbone of
to
this
help
nation,
invest
and they
in
deserve a
something.
government
So
that
we're
works for
really
them, not the
evaluating
political
is going back
insiders
and
who have
saying,
created
did
this
we
mess.
follow the right
So my
steps
message
there?
to
In my
Chuck
opinion.
Schumer and
My
Hakeem Jeffries is
concern
simple. Stop
is
playing
that
games.
it is an
Stop
inactive lawsuit.
bowing to this mob.
And what I don't ever want to do, and what I don't believe in doing,
The last
is
question I
presiding
have this.
from this dais
Thank you
on
very much for the way.
things that have not reached a
I'm
conclusion.
fortunate that
When
this
you're
whole
talking
thing
about
has
what do we
become
do
very
with,
complicated.
My partner sitting
I'm
here
very
next to us.
pleased to be here.
Me, this needs
And
to go
going
through
to the
the
world.
appropriate channels, and you see me in audit committee, and I'm a
I'm
big
fortunate
big
because
proponent of following the correct protocols, making sure
We
we
want to
follow
work
the
with
right
our local
steps.
business to help invest in
And
something
so,
so all really evaluating is going
I
back
hear what
and
my
saying, did we
colleagues
follow
are
all
saying
the right
about an
steps there? In my
external-
opinion, my concern is
external
that it
set
is
of
an
eyes.
inactive lawsuit.
My question
and
is,
what I don't ever
where
want
does
to
that
do
fit
and
right
what
now?
I
Because
don't
this is
believe
business
I'm
development.
doing last.
So it's very difficult
plaintiff
to have
versus
that
from these-
apply
from this
to
guy.
We're calling for
residential
this.
basis, which why we
Thank you
always
very
recommend
much
that you
for
stay
the
along
way
commercial
things
corridors.
have not
understand, and I
reached
said
a
that-
I understand that it has to
I
be,
said it earlier today,
it cannot be used for purposes that could be provided for other, from general funds. But again, I mean, Ernie De La Garza is telling us that it's going to be 12 years now, conservatively, to get all the streets repaired in the city, the residential streets repaired in the city, so that realistically,
making sure you want to know the right local business to help invest in something so all really evaluating is going back.
It won't have to
divert
Did you follow
resources
the
for
right
urgent
steps? In
modernization
my
efforts.
opinion,
Yeah.
my
I'm
concern
not
is
sure
that
what
this
this
is an
is,
idea of
honestly.
lawsuit. My
There's
question
been some
and what I don't
recommendations
ever
here.
want to
That ball, of course, is in the Democrats' court.
do and
I
what
don't
I
know
don't
what the next
believe,
appropriate
and
step
doing
is
the
right now.
last you
maybe
know
legal
plaintiff
can give us
verses
some
from
kind of
these,
direction.
from this
But
guy.
at the end of the day, I want us to
And
follow
now
the
we're
best
calling
protocol and
for
make sure
this.
that individuals or organizations
Thank you very much.
who have the authority to preside do.
Constructions going out there.
That's
we did
what
a
I'm
great
interested
tour.
in, protecting the
There's a lot
city
of
and
dollars
protecting
being
us as a
invested,
city.
so I don't think we're going to jeopardize that.
Thank you.
Anytime in the near
Thank you,
future, just
Councilwoman.
with the dollars that we've seen going into the base over the last
To preside, do.
there's more going on today than people even imagine unless you
This is
actually
what
do a
bothers
report,
me
even from
about this, about you guys doing the investigation. And I'm hearing it from my colleagues and other people is that at one time you hired Doug Allison to represent you for the city. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. But what also bothers me is that he is also the plaintiff's attorney, right? So my colleagues see a conflict of interest type of deal, and I understand where they're
The
coming
city
from.
and protecting us as she is.
Personally, I don't think there's anything
So,
criminal that happened.
Thank you.
I think it's unethical. I think that there are
This
some
is what bothers me about this, about you guys
people
doing
involved
the investigation.
that's held to a higher standard.
And I'm here from my colleagues and other people was that at one
I
time you
think
hired
if
Doug
the police or
Allison
the
to
FBI is
represent you
investigating
for the
this,
city.
I think we would have known something by now.
And that's fine. I have
I
no
feel
problem
that we
with
need to move
that.
forward to get an
But what also
outsider
bothers
to
consistent home life
investigate
that kind of
this
gave me an
because
opportunity to launch
there are no
forward.
ties
So
to
When I
you,
was a
no
teenager,
ties to Doug Allison,
I
no
lost
ties
both my
to the
parents,
hotelers, no ties
and
to the mayor.
they passed away, and
This
so I was
is what
displaced.
bothers me
So I was
about
actually taken
this,
out of a
about
situation
you
where I
guys
went from
doing
a very
investigation
unstable
that's
situation,
held to a higher
lost my
standard.
family, and went to a stable situation. So it's kind of in the reverse of full stable, they become
There's ongoing
unstable.
civil
But what I learned during that is that when I
lawsuit,
got
but
into
it's
a
only
stable
civil
situation
right
in
now.
high school,
And
is
I
that
think we could get information from both sides of
Malware.
of the lawsuit and give it to the attorney we decide, if we do decide to give it to. But I think we need to investigate it outside because I think some unethical stuff has happened, and I think we need to address that if it is true.
And
You know,
he used that
there's
as
three sides of
To
the
the
story.
hotels,
that, oh, we
no
can't do
ties
that
to the
anymore.
mayor. Somebody
The problem
else.
is when the Sea Turtle had its
Way
own
strange because
webpage,
there's
we
firm
need to
going
time
to
and
a
things
civil
on
lawsuit,
there.
but it's
Now what
only
happens is
civil
when
right
we want to
now.
put things on there,
And find somebody
And
to
I think
never
we
done
could
in a
get
timely manner
information
if
from
it's done
both
at all. If you
sides
look at
of the
my
malware
opinion, you
of
should
the
visit
lawsuit
that
and give it
webpage
to their
and see.
attorney over the
really
side,
sad.
and we do
I
the
guess
side
that's
to give it to
all I got time.
this as a
But I
community.
think we need to
It's all
investigate
over
it
Facebook.
outside because.
It's all over everywhere. But those depositions are public. You know, civil lawsuits are more or less public unless there's a
Malware.
seal on it for whatever reason from the judge. But you know, it's out there. You know, it's no secret to Corpus Christi. Everybody knows about it. So that's where I stand with it. I think we needed to give it to an outsider who has no interest in
Way
Corpus
strange
Christi,
because
somebody in
there's, we
Dallas.
need to look to it
You know, somebody
and watch it.
Dallas, Houston, somewhere has no
But it's
connection to
only
Corpus
civil
Christi. 'Cause
right
Corpus
for the
Christi is very
settlement
small.
and find
Everybody
somebody
knows everybody. And
Wow.
this is very political, and I just think that we need to do that. Thank you.
Councilman Bonetto.
Well, the reason it's political is because the plaintiff has made it that way. I mean, during the time when he disclosed that the item was altered, what is it? He made it very political. He threatened council members. He raised his voice to me. What is it? And now he went to the press several times. He recorded a conversation with Peter.
Especially in these costs of rising construction costs, because what happens is that you're limited to the type of rent that you can charge because of the 80% AMI. And so to make those projects work economically, there's usually more than just this little bit of funding. There's got to be more funding that has to come together to be able to make that work. And so we have had several projects come forward, and they just weren't able, either they weren't able to get the tax credits that they needed, or they couldn't make the economy.
The plaintiff has tried to litigate it in the press, hence providing the depositions to the press. And now they provide the information to you. And I don't know, I think my deposition was 3 hours long. Peter's 5 or 6 hours?
Or try to litigate it in police,
6
hence
hours?
providing
What
the
is it,
depositions
Heathers?
to
I
the
don't know.
press.
I'm assuming it was longer than 3 hours. Did you review each one of the did you review all the depositions? You looked at every minute of every deposition? Okay.
Yeah, yes, and if I can add, if I may, the easy thing would have been just to sit on this and not do anything.
No. The easy thing would have been to report it to law enforcement, but you don't feel it.
No, we did.
You haven't gotten enough information.
Yes, sir.
But wait. You haven't gotten enough information to determine that there's a crime, correct? You told me you don't know that there's a crime.
We don't know for certainty. We're not law enforcement.
Okay, but you've referred it to law enforcement.
Yes.
And I would ask also,
Police.
You know, my concern is that, number one, I would have a difficult time myself because of the fact that I've been deposed, and I've heard that I may be deposed again, that I couldn't make a decision. I don't think it would be, I think it would be a conflict for me to try to
2.5 hours. To provide clarity, and I think we're moving forward with this in a great manner. So there being no further business, this is 2.5 hours. To provide clarity, and I think we're moving forward with this in a great manner. So there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Chain of custody.
What outside investigative authority we have. When we already have a system, we have an ethics commission, which I would think that they have integrity, and I hold our police department at the highest of integrity within the nation. So I don't know why we would go, or why we would question the integrity of the ethics commission or the police chief or the renowned police department that we have.
I'm sorry, I must have missed something. No one's questioning the integrity of any other organization.
That's my thing. I think that this idea that there is that we should use something outside that is non-conflicting, that when we have what is it, integrity, people with integrity here within our organization, and I would recommend that you provide that. I wouldn't want you to sit on it. Had someone come to me and I had maybe the inkling that there was a crime, then I would contact the police chief. And I would hope that you turn all that information over so they can make that determination, because, like you said, they have access that you don't.
Yes, and again, we work with them. We've worked with them in the past. We have an investigation that was recent. Just yesterday, we reached out to them.
What outside investigative authority we have when we already have a system? We have an ethics commission, which I would think that they have integrity, and I hold our police department at the highest of integrity within the nation.
You don't know that either.
So I don't know why we would go, why we would question the integrity of the ethics commission, or the police chief, or the police that the renowned police department.
My apologies for interrupting.
Police.
We determined that a document has been altered. We also determined, based on testimony that was given under oath, that there was altered documentation.
But that's not a
Change of
deposition. You
Just
didn't
yesterday, we reached out to one outside investigative authority when you have where we were in touch with the system.
You don't know that there's a crime. You don't know that there's
We
been an
have
ethics
this on a
violation.
mission, which I would think absolutely have integrity, and I hold it for this department. But your highest, you're just taking
law
suspicion.
enforcement, of which the chief of police is the authority for the city of Corpus.
So I don't know why we would go.
You've already
We
committed
would
to being able
question
to
the
turn this information over to the
integrity of the ethics
Thank you very
commission,
much.
I'll share the
or the
information
police.
that we have with the police.
Thank you very much.
Police.
Councilman Cantu.
No.
Thank you, Mayor.
We determined that our document has been altered.
It's too late for that, but
We also determined, based on testimony that was given under oth, that there was an altered documentation.
Trust staff.
We just
Trust
yesterday,
them.
we
I don't
reached
trust
out
staff.
to
Or
White
staffs
Hat.
and all those depositions saying it happened. I mean, it makes no sense.
DDoS.
And you're named in it, Councilman Beda. I mean, I mean, of course you're gonna say what you're saying, and I get it.
I'm named in it. I'm a party to the lawsuit.
You're part. They said that you knew about the fraud, that you knew about the author documents.
Life and all those depositions saying it, and it makes no sense.
So,
law enforcement.
I have the floor.
DDS.
So, I just blows my mind. But, you know,
so the
any elected official that gets accused or something, it's always going to be a witch hunt. It's political motivated, blah, 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 blah. It is what it is, you know, and I just, I think it's a screwed up deal. I think all of it's just messed up. But, like I said, I don't know if I can make a motion to have an outside attorney's office look into the allegations of this, but I don't know what I need to do, what I need to say, but that's my motion. I wanted to get this to an outside attorney.
Second.
Thanks.
Councilman Roy.
You know, first of all, I know that all of us up here were elected officials. And part of the job is that we have to maintain our ethics. And, you know, yes, I was deposed because I was on council at the time when this took place.
I don't know if I can make a motion to have an outside attorney's office looking to the obligations of this, but I don't know what I need to
just
do,
like I know
what
that
I
I'll be
need to
deposed
say,
again, and
but that's my
asked me a
motion.
series of their questions also.
I wanted to
job
get this to an outside
tell
attorney.
them what I know and tell the truth.
And the two countries came in.
So that's just part of the job. I'm not looking at this as far as saying, you know, that I am. I guess that my thing is I'm impartial.
OPS were elected officials, and part of the job is that we have to
problem with you. And
so
I'll be just
that's
honest,
just part of the job.
Doug Allison was your attorney.
And not
you had a
looking at
relationship
this
with
as
him,
far
and
as
he
saying,
basically,
you know.
and you took information from one side. You took information from
Hacker ethics.
The plaintiff, and that's the only thing you did, because that plaintiff had the ability to ask only the questions they thought would be in their favor. And now, soon, as Miles said, you're going to have the ability, they're going to have the defense ask their questions. So there is 2 or 3 sides, like Eric said. But I'm not worried about any of that. You have to go through the process. At the end of the day, we have to go through this process and get to the bottom of it, because the people deserve to know if there was something that was inappropriately done, that we're going to get to the bottom of it and find out. And if it was it purposeful? I don't know. You know, sometimes even if it's not purposeful, you're still bound by the law.
And so it
you
just
have to
doesn't
suffer the
exist.
consequences if you did something that was
The
wrong.
job.
So I'm not worried about that. I
Doug
am going to
Allison
accuse
was
myself,
your
though, if we have to make a vote on
information
this, because I'm in the
from
middle
one
of it.
side.
I mean, I have to, and so I'm not going to
You took
decide either way,
information
because
from
either
the
way,
plaintiff, and
I don't
that's
want to get
the
involved in
only
this
thing you did
investigation. I
because that
welcome
plaintiff had
whether
the
you go to
ability
the
to
Texas
ask
Rangers
only the
or whether you
questions
go
they
to
thought would be in their
the
favor.
chief of police, or whether you go
And
to
now soon,
who was the
as
other one, the
Miles
FBI,
said, you're going to have the ability.
or whether you
They're
go
going
to
to have a
in
defense
my
as their
business,
questions.
in the mortgage industry, when we have fraud,
So there
it
is
actually
2
falls
or
under
3
the postal
sides.
inspector.
Are they
I don't know
outside
if you
people
knew
live
that
out
or
of
not,
state?
because
They
fraud
live outside.
usually is
I'm not
perpetrated
worried about any
email.
of that.
It's
You have
perpetrated
to
through
go
mail
through the
Are they
process.
outside people live out of state?
through the
live outside.
through fax machines when they have
We have
fax
to go
machines.
through this
So
process,
the
and
postal
it's
inspector
to
and the
the
Secret
bottom.
Service are the ones that investigate bank fraud.
We have a complete spreadsheet.
And so let the process go through the process. And I welcome that. But at the end of the day, the people deserve to understand what happened and know what happened. And hopefully at the end of the day, if it wasn't intentional, we could use this as a learning experience.
Information
But I
right
do
on the
caution
side,
you
and so I'm
in
not
terms
going
of the
to
fact
decide.
that you are involved in this, and I actually think if you're going to do the ethical
Assistance
thing, you
for
should
Law
recuse yourself
Enforcement
also,
Act.
because you shouldn't have been a part of this in the first place, because you had a relationship with that attorney, and you should have turned it over to your staff and stayed out of it. And that's just my opinion.
Right, and we've done that with Amir Hussein, who's leading the investigations.
But Amir also works for you. So maybe at the end of the day, and again, whatever this council wants to do, if they use an outside agency, a non-biased outside agency,
to gain
that's
bank
fine
fraud,
too.
and so let the
whatever you guys
process
wanna
go
do,
through the process.
it doesn't matter
and I
to me.
welcome that, but at the end of the day, the people deserved to
Thank you,
understand
Councilman.
what happened and know what happened, and hopefully at the end of the day, if it wasn't intentional, we could use this as a learning experience,
How do you
information,
come and
but
say you've done an investigation when you've only spoken and seen one side of it?
Amir, you led this
all in
investigation, but
this,
we
and I
felt that there
actually
was
think if you're
overwhelming
going to test a cool
evidence
thing,
based on
you're
just
going to use your cell
testimony that was
balls.
provided.
So you agree, based on one
Because you
side?
shouldn't have been a
Because
part
the
of
defense
this
has
in the
not
first
upheld.
place. Because
Yes,
you
but if
had
you
a
listen,
relationship
I'm sure
with
you
that
will
attorney.
listen to the testimony, and it was
At
pretty,
least it turned it over to
overwhelming
your
in
staff
terms of
and
what was
stayed
being
out of it,
conveyed.
and that's
then we
just
did
my
more than that. We
opinion.
actually looked at the documentation.
Right?
We
And
tested
we've
it.
done that
We
with
performed our
Amir,
own
who's saying
test
he's
to see
leading
how
the
that would work.
investigation.
Mr. Holland,
Yes.
you're admitting to
But
us
Amir
that you
also
only
works for
have
you.
looked at one side, but you are coming here and saying,
So maybe
we're
at
the
the
judge
end
and
of the
jury
day, and
on
again,
this case.
whatever this
Well, no,
council
sir,
wants
a
to
case
do,
is not
if they
cut
use
in
an
half.
outside
That's why
agency,
we're
a non-biased
suggesting
outside agency,
counsel look at
or a
that.
non-biased
But you didn't
outside
go to law
agency.
enforcement, which is weird. Anytime anyone in this room, you
could
think
take
there's a
something
crime
and, I mean,
committed.
and I'm not suggesting this, please don't shoot me. But, I mean, you could say, I don't want to use it for the seawall anymore, I want to use it for something else, because this is a reauthorization. The current authorization is expiring, and we're authorizing it for something else.
And I say that again for clarity.
Yes,
Because if you, it's not the seawall fund anymore. It's
No, it would be more
we moved it along.
flood protection.
It's protecting the city.
Your
Anyway,
staff
Yes,
and
in the
stayed
past,
out of
yes.
it,
In the
and
past, he
that's
was your
just
lawyer.
my hand.
Done.
and you didn't speak to
actually
people, you
looked
read
at the
depositions, or
documentation.
maybe
Mr.
you
White?
did both.
Oh, and I
Is that
forged
right?
testimony of mine.
We've done that with
And looked at,
Oh, hello,
no,
Martha.
it's okay. They're
Good
anytime
news.
just
someone,
Mary.
anyone
I'm
in
just
this
kind of
room, you
flabbergasted.
think there's a crime that's been committed.
You know,
Postal interception.
the ordinance was vetted by staff, was vetted by legal, was vetted by city managers, was vetted by the legal department, and then it was on this dais. So if everyone is saying this was a forged illegal document, there's a lot of people who crossed the line.
If you need assistance, please be sure to
Because
plan
the 9
accordingly.
people here
Our 301
depend
call
on
center will
CIA.
be taking a break on Christmas Day and New
Talk
Year's
to
Day.
anybody on there
Animal Care Services will also be
about the
closed
vetting
on
of this
December 25th,
ordinance?
26th, and January
saw
1st.
testimony.
Essential
No,
services like
did
fire,
you
police,
talk
and
to
gas
anyone
will remain
about
open.
Postal
Our public works
interception.
team will be
The
on call
ordinance
for any
was
emergency.
vetted by staff,
Solid
was
waste services,
vetted by
including the
legal,
landfill
was
and
vetted
transfer
by
stations,
city
will be closed on
managers,
Christmas Day
was vetted by
and
the
New Year's
legal
Day.
department.
If your trash pickup lands on these days, it'll ship to
Postal
Right. When
interception.
allegation comes to us, we have two options: to take the allegation and investigate it and evaluate it and raise our voice and our concern, or disregard this allegation. So we evaluated this investigation. We ran the investigation independently, and we
Heath.
came to this conclusion.
Right, based on everything y'all just admitted to, which is it was one-sided. So it's
Postal
just wrong.
interception.
I'm sorry.
Or the
and
order
he's
was
conflicted.
vetted by
That
staff,
said,
was
Miles,
vetted by
I'd like
legal,
to-
was vetted by
I'd like to
city
ask you, what is
managers,
your
was
opinion
vetted by the legal
on doing
departments.
and starting this whole nother investigation.
First, when
while
delegation
there is
comes
litigation,
to us, we
which
have
essentially
two options
is an
to take
actually
the
it's four
allegation and
investigations,
investigate
because there are
it
four
and evaluate
attorneys
it
involved.
and raise
Yeah, I
our
actually
voice
think
and our
there's-
concern. All this regard,
It's a
this
little odd to do an
allegation.
investigation in the middle of a lawsuit, but
So
keep in mind,
we
every attorney who handles a
mitigation.
case does an investigation, does a determination of what the case looks like, does a determination of all the evidence that's been provided. If City Council really wants to deal with this and is uncomfortable with the local representation, it's no problem to hire a litigation attorney who handles municipal cases. from Austin. We know those persons, but that would be not just an investigator, it would be an attorney who'd handle the city's side in the case and report to the city council, so the city council would be able to talk to that
But I would say
case.
you would need to hire them, because people are conflicted on this dais, whether they realize it or not. They are conflicted.
The charter provides that we select the attorney, but I know quite a few excellent trial attorneys who do municipal cases in Austin, Texas. They aren't connected to the city in any way. It's a costly thing. We do our own litigation for a reason generally when we can. So I'm willing to bring that.
It does
that
an
attorney
investigation.
to the
It does a
council. It will be a
determination
council
of what
decision because the
No,
budget
no,
for that kind of
no.
matter. You're taking a case.
First, when delegation,
discovery,
we have two
probably half a
options
dozen
to take the
depositions,
allegation.
Interrogatories,
Investor, undervalent, and
potential
raise
amendments of
our
pleadings,
voices
and then the
and
jury
our
trial. I
concern.
think this case is going to go to trial.
All this regard.
So it's going to be
It's this
substantial
allegation.
budget from them. We can-
Investigation in the middle of the
Yeah, well, I
lawsuit.
think we need to look into that,
But
because there
so,
are fundraisers,
line
there are
every
people that
attorney
sponsor
who
fundraisers,
negotiations
there are
does an
meetings that have taken
investigation.
place. Lots of conflict up on this dais.
Does a
Councilwoman,
determination of what the case looks like.
George,
Does
you
it a
guys are in a very
determination
difficult
of all
position.
the evidence that's
I
been
think
provided?
you're trying to do your job.
No,
And you're doing
no,
what an
no.
auditor does. You saw something that you thought was wrong. Now, I don't know that I've got all the evidence. I'm not going to accuse
private
anybody up here of anything,
investigator.
because I don't think you should ever do that. But I would say this, everybody here is conflicted, even Miles, the lawyer sitting over there. And I think Miles is fair, but I think everybody's conflicted. And Everett, I appreciate the fact that you said you recuse yourself. That's what you do. If you're accused of something or you're in
You're
part of a
taking a
lawsuit,
case.
that's what you do. So that was stand up.
First,
But
when
everybody's conflicted. And I want
FBI.
to take up for the plaintiff just a minute here. You know, it says he felt like he was done a wrong. He did, and that's the reason he filed the suit. He felt like something wrong was done. And I think he was called a liar. I get it, because that's how I felt over this desal. That's kind of how we were treated. You know, because sometimes when you don't get your way, you just get mad and you start accusing
was wrong.
and spreading all kind of crap.
Now,
And
I
that's what we've
don't
gone
know
through.
that I've got all
And so
the
we've got to be
evidence.
careful how this
And
goes.
not going to accuse anybody
I
of
get
this.
why you wouldn't want to
Anything.
share it with the attorney, the city attorney. I understand that.
Because
wouldn't
I
have done that
don't
either.
think you should
I
ever
would have
do
been
that.
concerned. I'm glad that you took it to the FBI. I think that
But
was a
I would
start.
say this,
I'd like to hear what
everybody
they
here
said, if
is
they thought it should
conflicted.
go any further, because I don't know if a crime
Even
was committed.
Miles,
It could just have
the
been
lawyer-
unethical. But I think anybody that looks at the document can
And
tell
if I
it was
take up
altered.
for the plane
I mean,
of
and
just
what's bad about this
man in the
is the
middle.
community has seen all of this. They've seen the testimony. So if you see the testimony, then you think something has happened. I mean, anybody with a right mind would think something was happening if you heard it, because staff said it. And it shouldn't have gone to the agenda. I don't think it should have gone to the agenda. I think they should have vetted it some more. Anyway, I think what y'all based your stuff on was the interviews that you saw. And I think that's what the public's seen. And I think that we have to do due diligence because the public has seen all of it. And we don't want them to think, they're going to just continue to say, well, something happened. You're going to have some on each side. So we've got to figure out how we do this. Do we let the police chief handle it? Do we get an outside investigator? I don't know. But I always look to the fact that you first take it to law enforcement.
That
I just
looks
think that should
the
be done.
document.
And you
It
said
was
you
all
would do
for the
that.
play.
And I appreciate that.
And just to be
I
clear,
mean,
FBI is
and
law
just
enforcement,
bad
but we
about
will
this
take it to
man in the
CCPD.
middle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I also trust
Man
you.
in the middle.
You know, so I think maybe that might be a start. If y'all want to turn it
Man
over to
in the
an
middle.
investigator, I mean, I'll look at it, but
The
I
community.
don't know that anything has.
Man in the middle.
I don't know if anything has been done. I don't think any of us know that yet, because we haven't heard both sides. We've only heard one, and in a court of law, you always have both sides. So this is really hard, but it's going to be political, and I don't want it to be to get out there like this. I mean, we just go from one thing to another. We've got to get this together. But I don't think you should be maligned. I mean, I think you are doing what you think is right. Would I like more information? Yes. Because you haven't sold me yet on why you brought it. I'm being honest. So But our job is to do due diligence. And I would love for it to have gone to the audit board first, is what I would like to have seen it done, and then brought to the council.
If y'all want to turn it down in the middle.
Okay. Lastly, I'm going to
Man
say,
in the middle.
again, that this ordinance
I mean,
was
I'll look at it.
brought before the legal department and
Man
staff
in the
and was
middle.
approved to move forward.
I don't know if
I just
anything
want that
has
on
been
record.
done.
And it is their duty to ensure that all
I
documents that
don't
go
think
before
any
any
of
city
us know
council
that yet
are
because we
vetted and in
haven't heard
fact
both
legal.
sides.
So,
We've only
that
heard
said,
one.
there is a
And in a
motion
court of
and a
law,
second.
you
What is it
always
for?
have both sides. So this is really hard, but it's gonna be political, and I don't want it to be to get out there like this. I mean, you just go from one thing
Motion
to another.
to
We've
refer the city attorney. Motion
got
to refer the
get
city
this
attorney
together, but I
to
don't
hire
think
an
you
attorney
should
from
be in
outside
the
Corpus
line.
Christi
I
to
mean, I
investigate
think
the
you
fraud
are doing more
allegations
you think
regarding
is
the
right.
Type B funding of the home.
Would I like more
receipts.
information? Yes, because
You
you
said
haven't
outside
sold.
agency before, so you changed your motion? Your motion was seconded by Ms. Campos, and it was to refer it to an outside agency. So now you've changed your motion?
With an attorney.
Okay, can you repeat it? I missed it, because I thought you made another motion.
Mayor, can I talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Before you do that, do you think maybe we should consider, before we go and spend a bunch of money, take it to the chief first and let him look at it? Would y'all be open to that and let the chief look at it first?
How about, how much money does it gonna cost, Miles? Can you get an estimate or something like that?
It probably won't cost a lot less to investigate than to have an attorney actually represent us, and an attorney at good competent
And
counsel
see,
representing
so we
us,
changed
and
our
being able to
motion.
evaluate all the claims is
We're
probably
there
what you
tonight.
want. Like I said,
Okay.
he's going to be having to observe this case
Can
through
you
all the
repeat
evidence
that?
creation.
I
Observe
missed
all
it.
this
Because I thought she made another
I would
motion.
estimate somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Before we get into the part,
Stay in the entire case.
Mayor cannot talk. Yes.
Okay, so do you want to take Carolyn's
Before you do
advice,
that,
send it
do
to
you
PD?
think maybe we should
And then
consider
look at
before
it.
we go
I just
and spend a
feel
bunch
that-
of money?
I trust the chief, I trust our police department, but you're putting them in a very hard situation because the fact that they work with us here, like we know them, like some of these allegations are people in this dais. I mean, it just it doesn't make
See what
sense.
we
but-
changed
I'm
to
gonna
being
go any way y'all
able
wanna
to
go. I'm just
evaluate all
saying,
the
that's a
claims
lot of
as
money.
part of what
We
you
don't
might
have that
want.
kind of money to do that yet, and I just
Like
want to
a
know
case
for
is
sure, does
he's
he think
going
it needs
to
to
be
go
having
forward?
to
I
observe
just think
this
they need
case.
to look at all the evidence that they've got and listen to the tapes. I
Can
don't
you
know if the chief is
reintroduce
listening
that
those.
to the
I'm
extent
willing
that
to go
there's this
the
number?
way y'all want to go, because I think we have to
thought
do
she
due
made another
diligence, but I just
motion
want you
for
to
this to
think
make
about
somewhere
it.
between
That's a
2
lot of
and
money to
300,000.
spend for that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Before we
desal
get
on a
into the
baby.
I mean, how much
They
are we
would
going to
say
spend
in
with
the
CCPD?
entire case,
With
yes
their
or
time,
not.
their time
Well,
doing this?
nothing would you have to, you
Yes.
wouldn't have to pay CCPD to do
Okay,
it, would you?
so
the
do you
payroll
want
that
to
they're
take
working
care
on
of
this case and everything?
Well, they get paid every day.
Yeah,
Trust
but
our
just saying,
police
it could cost how
department
much, hundreds
that
of
you are
thousands of
putting
dollars for a
them
city
in a
council
very
meeting?
hard situation
I mean,
because the fact that they work with us here,
CCPD
like
is
we know
not
them,
just sitting
like
alone
some
as
of
their
these
own little
allegations
insular
are people
agency.
in this
collaborates
diet.
with the FBI.
I
CCPD
mean,
collaborates.
it doesn't mean
when they're
much.
doing a criminal analysis of a potential
I
criminal
don't
case,
know
they are
anybody don't
collaborating
want
with
to
the
go.
district attorney to
I
determine
don't
what
know
is the type of
anybody
case.
don't want to
I just
go.
hope, Miles, for the record, I just
am
hope that
going
you're not just
to be
throwing
able
$200,000,
to go.
$300,000 out of your butt because of the fact
I
that
don't
I know
know
for a fact you don't
anybody
like
don't
Doug
want
Allison.
to
So
go.
you're trying to do
I don't
anything and
know.
everything, and I get it. Whatever the
I
case
don't
is,
know.
I just want to make sure
I don't know.
that we send it out to somebody who could look into it. I mean, this is
paid
not just
every
some
day.
small allegations. I mean, this is a pretty big deal.
Trust me, at least at the cost of $100,000. And there's a very hard situation because the fact that they want to point out the CCPD is not just sitting like some of these allegations or agents agencies.
Doug Allison
That's my opinion.
elected representative of an
This is
opponent in a case.
the rest
and
of
he's
the
a
FBI,
attorney.
CCPD collapsed. It doesn't mean when they're doing
That's the only thing I want to do. I just want to
analysis
show
of
the
a
public
particular
that we're
case,
trying, and
and
that's
they're
it.
not going
So,
to go
if it
through
fails, it
it, and they're
fails.
just returning to
Hey.
determine you don't
I still
know.
have
And
it.
if I can get
Hey,
one,
I just want
I'll
you to think about it, because we don't know if it's criminal. We don't know if it's just.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally cut
We
you.
can't look into it.
We don't, I just want us to make sure,
I think
because I don't
this
want it to
is
look
not
like a witch
just
hunt.
some
Whenever we do
modifications.
it, I want us to be sure what we're doing.
White
And so
hat.
I don't have a problem with the chief looking at it and then coming back and have George meet with him. I don't have a problem with that. And then go forward after that if we're not satisfied with what he says. But I'm going to go with you guys wherever you want to go, because I think we have to do due diligence. But sometimes due diligence is starting at the bottom and working your way up.
AI fabricated conspiracies.
Good.
And all
Put on your lens.
we see on the news every day.
I just feel like we waste so much money on other things, just like the Citrus City. I mean, I just feel like we need to do this for the public, and that's it. You know,
If it's
nothing
criminal.
comes back. Nothing comes back. But I think they should follow the case.
We don't know if it's
outright
just,
and making
I'm
sure
sorry.
that no one's done anything wrong. That's it. It's
We
my
can't
opinion.
look into it.
Councilman Scott.
So
I just
I
want
said in
to make
getting in the
sure
way
that
of your,
this is
your continuing investigation. I think the right
Vision.
answer is to go to the police chief. Doesn't mean we can't hire somebody
and
afterwards.
so I don't have a
But I
problem
think that
with the
would be the
chief
next step.
looking
I-
at
I
it
don't- I
and
would
then
like to
coming
ask
back
him to
and
kinda
have
give
George meet with him.
Again, I don't know how this works. I don't
I
know.
don't
wanna
have a
know how it
problem
works, right?
with that.
But,
Compared to an
I think
object
he
that's
can
not.
provide
So
some
we'll keep
then
looking
go
at that
forward after that
other
if
we
we're
watch
not
it go down over the
satisfied
next
with what he says.
That doesn't mean we can't
15
hire somebody.
minutes or so.
We need to know.
And again, the estimate was 4:30 on my watch.
If we don't, we're not-
I've got
if we don't
4:17,
if
so
we
roughly
sometimes
13
do
minutes
due
out from this thing
diligence
coming down. I'm going to switch
Police
over
chief
to the
will
Lex
do
cam
their
again,
investigation, do their work. I don't know how long
and
that
you
takes.
can't
This
even
was
see
one
from
last
this
year.
angle, you cannot
Then
see
come
any.
back, and
I
by
just
that
don't
time,
like,
you'll be able to
you
say
know,
you
we'll
found-
make sure
I
one
assume
or the
you'll be able
other.
to find there's 5 people and this is what it costs.
I think
And
the
then we
rush
make that
answer is
decision.
to
I
go
don't-
to the police
if I
chief
vote no,
doesn't
it's not
mean
because I
we
don't
can't
want to do
hire
it.
somebody
It's that I
else,
think
and
we should
so
go to
I
the
don't
police
have a
chief
problem
first,
with that she looks
and then-
at it, and it's
and then
kind of
subsequent to
bad
that,
to
if we
have
feel
George
that,
meet with
then
him.
you-
I don't have the problem with that, but the ticky
Okay.
can
Thank you,
provide
Councilman
some
Scott.
kind of
We have a
go for
motion
after
and a
that if
second
it was.
right, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
said yes, he
Public
says
comment.
it doesn't mean we can't
Yeah.
hire somebody, but I'm going, guys,
Public comment.
wherever you want to go, because I think we have to do.
Oh, I think she's up.
Fabricated conspiracy. Protesting citizens.
D-do S.
Of a U.S. president with a crown on his head flying a fighter jet and dumping poop on
People, and this is what it costs.
all of that is designed.
I think the rush answer is to go to the police chief doesn't mean because I don't want to hear somebody else.
Over-the-top rhetoric, the fabricated conspiracies,
And this is what it costs.
of a U.S. president with a crown on his head
It's not
flying
on, Susie.
a fighter
There it is.
jet and dumping
Okay,
poop
let me tell you what my problem is with all of your discussion.
protesting citizens.
You know, there should be somebody that investigates it, but I think everything is already tinted. It really is, because you've got an auditor, as the paper that I passed out to you, that had an internal investigation done on him, okay? Found to be a growth plan or to be let go of this company. You guys decided not to do it, but that is the truth. And his lawyer was the lawyer that's defending the people that are against them. So let's look at what you've got. If you put an independent auditor, and that
this is
auditor
what
tells
it
you,
costs.
I'm going to go to this auditor to
not
get the
on.
information.
There it
Now, that's
is.
not right. And that he's got an
Okay.
employee telling you that he did the investigation, that's not right either.
Communications assistance
What
for
needs to
law
happen is you need to have
enforcement
somebody
act.
that's totally independent, that doesn't know the auditor, that the auditor is not
Police.
allowed to be there with him or give him information, and that it starts from scratch. If you're going to spend that kind of money, then start from scratch. Do it from that without having it being compromised by anybody. You have to have transparency. No. Okay, that is important to us, to we the citizens, and I agree that you've only heard one side of the case.
And this is what it
you haven't
costs.
heard the second side.
I'm going to go
Unfortunately,
to
I agree
this
with some
side.
people that I don't care about,
It's
but I
not
agree.
right either.
Okay?
Communications
simple.
assistance for
The
law
truth is
and
the truth.
enforcement. That's
And you have to
totally
stick to the
independent.
truth. And the truth is you need to be transparent
That
to
doesn't
the people.
know the auditor,
You
that
need
the
to be
auditor is allowed
transparent.
to be
You need
there
to
with
be
him
able to
or
see
giving
both
me
sides.
information, and that
And
it
putting the
starts
chief
from
of police
scratch.
involved in this,
If you're
it's
going
gonna be
to
kind of
spend
hard.
that kind
He's a
of
very
money, then
honorable
start
and
from scratch.
distinguished man. But he answers to him.
Patch.
Okay? So an independent thing would be
Anybody
better
that had an email
if-
address, we worked with IT and IT
if
kicked them out a
you
base
can keep it
message.
truly
We've got your
independent
application.
and transparent.
Maybe we'll get to it, but the application
That is
period
the
is
question that
closed.
you're gonna have to ask
We're
yourself.
processing them
That is the
in
question
order.
that we, the
There was
people,
another
should be asking.
200 of them that I want
We
to say
want
got phone
transparency. We
calls
want the truth.
telling them we're processing
Communications
applications
assistance
in
for
order.
law and
But it depends on which route you got, depending on whether or not
That's
there was
totally
an
independent.
email associated with your application
And
intake.
the truth is you need
The
to
more
be transparent.
hand-holding that the city
That doesn't be known.
Rachel Caballero, D1.
The
City
order that the
Charter,
order is allowed to be
Section
in there.
11A1, willful violation of any
Patch.
code of
Allow
ethics or
animals on
conflicts
service
of
dogs,
interest,
patrol
provision
dogs,
under state or
fish and
federal
So,
law or
an
city
independent
ordinance,
frame would be
misconduct,
better if you
malfeasance,
can keep it
incompetence,
truly
inability, or
independent.
willful neglect in
Patch.
performance of official duties.
Let know, let's say, in this March, I guess from sometime probably after March 7 and before the second reading. Fair enough?
That's fair enough, and I don't know, from memory, I'm gonna tell you who I did, who I believe I told. I told others, but I know I told the mayor. I know I told Councilman Roy.
Some outside ownership, I can give you that.
Councilman
15% of them are workforce, 85% are non-information.
Maybe Councilman Suckley, but
children that go to
Presley and the mayor.
But you increase the fee because you're saying the state pays you.
Right after I met with the
Police department.
with the
Of
architect.
ethics or complex
Councilman
interest
Hernandez,
division
you
of
had
state or
informed
federal
them
law
that there
or
had been
city
this
ordinance
altering or
frame is
tampering or
caught up
forging
in
of a
our
federal
fees
document,
and
but they were
incompetent
still willing
inability
to
or
support it,
willful
right?
neglect
Correct.
in performance
And
of
it's true for the
official
mayor and
duties.
true for, I mean, I don't want to throw them together, so I'm going to ask individual questions.
In
So,
fact, garments of official duties.
what you're
no,
telling me
let's
then is
say
that the
in this
mayor
mortuary.
had definitely been made aware
Would it,
that
I guess, for me,
the altered federal
sometime
document used at the
probably
time of
after
the first reading
mortuary
to
7
support the
and
request for $2
before the
million,
second
that
reading,
even though
fair
it had
enough.
been a federally altered document, she was still
That's fair
had
enough,
indicated
and
she's still okay
I
with
don't
moving forward
know
and approving
from
it.
memory.
Correct.
I'm going to tell you who I did.
The audit committee is not a
D-do S.
convicting organization. We should not be going to Chief Markle, as the CCPOA has endorsed many of you behind that dais, and it would be a conflict of interest. Because of even the minute speculation, and I know how to work
But
Adobe
in the
Acrobat
fact,
myself,
garments of
and I
official
know that
duties,
it does
what
take
you're telling
7
me,
to 10
let's
strokes
say
to
this here
modify
for you.
documents.
Definitely
So I stick
made
by my
aware of
petition
that.
to remove the mayor, and I'm going
I
to
guess for
continue
an
with
altered
petitions
federal
to
law
remove anybody
time,
that
probably
knowingly
not
is lied
after
and
mortuary
is
7.
deceiving the community.
Or the second,
Any
they'd even know
elected
that.
official that tries to
And then
change
a
the
federally
city
altered
charter
document.
to remove the ability of the
That's fair.
community to make this
And I think
petition
it's fair.
to remove elected officials
I don't have
that
it
are
for an
involved in any
improvement.
type of fraud. I will promise you,
I can
I
tell
will make
you
sure
who
you
I
never
did.
run for office or get elected again. Thank you.
How to commit is not a criminal organization.
The city manager is a constitutionally sworn officer that swears an oath to defend the laws. If he believed the item was any of those, he had a duty to inform the entire city council to not just select a few public officials
Man in
or
the middle.
myself, but all all of us. And to this date, no one, no expert has said in
The
this
city
litigation
manager is a constitutionally sworn officer that swears an oath to defend the laws if he believed the item was any of those.
no one has. And so, I'm sorry, that is a statement of fact. I was never told the document was not legal. And I'm not an attorney. And I rely on the city's attorney, or our attorney, our legal
Said
process.
city manager is a
We all
constant tension on a
there's
sworn
Proposed Bond
officer
2024
that
program
swears
includes
to
38
defend the
projects
laws
across
if
the
he
community
believed
that
the
focus
item
on
was
public
any of
safety,
those.
streets,
And there was
No one
parks, and
has.
cultural facilities.
Legal department
This
looks
program
at
is
that.
divided into 4
Should
key
have never gotten to
propositions.
this dice.
Proposition A proposes a budget of $89.5 million dedicated to residential and commercial streets.
City manager,
This
Peter,
includes
by
18
far,
street
you've been
projects
the
for the
best city
reconstruction
manager
of major
that I've
corridors
worked
such as
for.
Road
And
and Grand
I
Morgan.
pray
Is a
that
statement of fact.
you stay in
I
there
was
with
never told the document
Congratulations,
was not
Peter, on
legal.
5 years as city manager of Corpus
And I'm not
Christi.
an attorney,
I'm not
and I
surprised to
rely
hear
on the
that you
city's
built an
attorney or
excellent team.
attorney
You're doing
or
outstanding
early.
work. You were a star in San
It was said
Antonio.
that the city
Keep it up.
manager is
Do
a
a great
constant
job.
tension
And
on the swine
congratulations.
officer that
I wanna
swears to
congratulate Peter on
defend
his
the
5 years
law
at the city
and
of
it's landed on the
I'm trying to
agenda.
make it make sense.
The item was any of those.
I'm not accusing, like I said, I don't even know.
That it should have never gotten to this dais.
But why
Yes,
would it
ma'am.
be not a good idea to
Very
send it
relevant.
outside? We don't have anything to worry about.
Well,
And
you
then
know,
putting the
I am
chief of
Bridget
public
Baldwin,
position
Corpus
and
Christi,
all of you
Texas.
To make that determination.
And
as a
so I'm
citizen
sorry
listening
that
from
is
the
a
outside,
statement of fact.
Who would believe anything?
I
you
was
said? What
never
would
pulled
happen?
to
I
the
wanna know what would
document
happen if
was
you
not
said there's
legal.
nothing here.
And I'm
Would we
not an
send it out to
attorney,
the
and
FBI
I
or
rely.
someone else, or no? I'm just asking.
Man in the
I don't
middle.
know. So if he said, I don't see anything, what are we going to do then?
City manager, but Peter, by far, you've been the best city manager that I've worked for, and I hope and pray that you stay another 5 years.
Congratulations, Peter, on
That
5
it should
years
have
as
never
city
gotten
manager of
to
Corpus
this
Christi.
die.
I'm not surprised to hear
Yes,
that you
ma'am.
built an excellent team.
Very
You're doing
real.
outstanding work.
We don't
You were a
have
star in
anything
San
to worry
Antonio.
about.
Keep it up. Do a great job.
Well,
And congratulations.
I am Bridget
I want to
Baldwin,
congratulate Peter on his 5 years at the city of
COVID-19, Texas.
Before us, and here to serve us.
To make
and
that
have our
determination.
interest at heart. That's what I
And
believe.
so I'm sorry
So
that
all
it's a
this coming
statement
at
of
me and listening to what's going on.
man in the
I
middle.
don't
So
know.
what if he said, I don't see anything, what we're gonna do then, and then as a citizen listening, and then carrying back and hearing that there was an investigation, but after you got to the chief, nothing's
As an
going to
unbiased
happen.
person listening to that, and it sounds kind of crazy.
Man in the middle.
That you wouldn't take something on the outside and not sit there and investigate it. I don't think that is something anybody would want to do, be put in that position. And what a horrible position to be put in. And for Representative Paxton, I think the position you held that you want everybody to work as a team and together.
Men in the middle. So what if he said, I don't see anything, what we're going to do then, and then as a citizen listening, and then carrying back and hearing that there was an investigation, but after you got to the chief, nothing's.
Given to someone, and then what takes place after that is
Man in the middle, that you wouldn't take something outside and not investigate it. I don't think that
because
there's
I have something that's been
so
under
much.
investigation, and now that all this has been said,
Man in the
I see
middle.
why it hasn't gone here or there or anywhere. But it will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Smith.
And dumping poop. AI might take their job.
Robin Cox, District 3.
Protesting citizens.
First, I want to say that I sit here and I'm really sad because we voted for y'all and we trusted y'all. If I committed fraud, I would go to jail. And there There's has been people that go to jail. Ask Wesley Snipes. Fraud is illegal. And when I look at you and see some of your judgments, and I know we're not supposed to say by name, so I'm just going to kind of point. He said at one meeting that, to my face, that one of his mentors, his idols, was John LaGoya.
Wouldn't
Well, I think John LaGoya went to jail, got caught doing fraud, so I wouldn't use somebody as one of my people that I looked up to as someone who went and got in trouble for fraud and was in house arrest.
And now
The
that
second
all this
thing
has been
is you say,
said,
why
I
not go to
see
Chief
why
Markle?
it
I know
hasn't
Chief
gone
Markle,
here
he's a
earlier.
respected man, but what a
But
horrible
it
position
works.
to put him in when he's got to work with the mayor, the city manager. It's almost like who's minding the keys, who's minding the shop right now.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know if Mayor Wajardo is guilty or not. It sounds like it is. My dad used to say if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And then I heard some of you say, well, we don't know what happened. You sound like the man who walks in and catches his wife in bed with another man and says, I don't know if he slept with her, he was in the bed. We all know what's going on right here, and if we don't do and call a third party in, I know you say it's going to cost $200,000 or $300,000. Some of you have that much money invested in shoes in your closet. Your 5 purses would add up to that. This is worth it. The city of Corpus Christi is worth knowing the truth. By the way, if anything happens to any of us, we didn't commit suicide. I know people who are literally afraid. They're afraid to come up here. They've told me, what are you doing, Robin? She's very powerful. Roland, you say you've been yelled at? I've been yelled at on the campaign trail. Some of us are afraid to say anything. We shouldn't be afraid. This is my city too. This is every one of ours. If you live in Las Encinas, if you live in Hillcrest, if you live in Ocean Drive, it's all our cities, and we deserve to know the truth.
And then I heard some of you say, well, we don't know what happened.
In 1991, when David Duke and Edwin Edwards were running against each other. And I remember asking one of them, you've got a Klan member and someone who stole from you running. They said, we're used to getting stolen from.
He was in the bed.
Let's don't look like the city that we're used to crimes being gone
against. We all know
against.
what's going on right here.
I also want to say, I remember back when I was a little girl, and I think it was J.P. Luby was the mayor. And we respected our mayor. Whether they were Democrat or Republican, we respected them. We knew they were going to lie to us. I wrote a letter,
especially in these cost of rising construction costs, because what happens is that you're limited to the type of rent that you can charge because of the 80% AMI. And so to make those projects work economically, there's usually more than just this little bit of funding. There's got to be more funding that has to come together to be able to make that work. And so we have had several projects come forward, and they just weren't able, either they weren't able to get the tax credits that they needed, or they couldn't make the economy.
I'll throw some of you say,
no one.
Well,
so I don't think you should
no
either.
one can
Secondly, it was determined
in 1991 when they did an Edwin Edwards run and he gets each other.
And it came forward.
At that same time, I think the medley was guilty or not, and I was so proud.
No, you
had
shouldn't
be afraid. How many people can be found? This is my 72 cents. If we have a stain, and this is everyone's fault, we deserve to know who you have a lot to say to the living.
Because you're saying the state pays it.
You live in an ocean stream,
She was part of the
like a dog.
the city's legal department.
All our citizens that we deserve to know the truth.
Let's get our facts straight. That's why this is a problem. You have people coming up under a city auditor's title saying, we've done an investigation.
And it came for that same time.
It doesn't work
I think the medley was guilty or not. And I was so proud.
Julian Hernandez, Corpus Christi.
You had time.
I guess it got as entertaining as it did last week, to say the least.
I have a statement of fact. That's why this is a problem.
I mean, that's some of the stuff that you're displaying here is rude and whatnot, you know. But last I heard, and like I said, I've only started coming to these meetings. Last I heard, an auditor was fired for auditing something.
white cat.
I give these guys praise because
Was
to
the
do
what?
the right thing.
Oh, and I
sometimes is very
forged
hard.
his testimony.
All I heard from a lot of these.
Oh, hello, Mother.
A lot of the council
Good news.
was,
I've married. Tell Father.
hardship on these guys for doing the job.
Such a nice woman.
If a little girl got molested, would you go to the house and start asking the dad? Would you go to the brother that might have been in the same room, or would you go to the police? Just in my personal perspective, I look at this in the eyes of
might take their job.
me as a parent, me as a taxpayer, me as just Joe Blow.
That's why this is a problem.
I came in today, obviously this is my second time here.
Some of the stuff that you're displaying here is rude and whatnot.
If that was her, came in here and just...
But last I heard, like I said, I've only started coming these meetings. Last I heard an auditor was fired for auditing something.
And that's because she just looked familiar to me, if that was her. So as a citizen here in Corpus, what is my perception? What is my perception of that? Like she had an agenda, she knows something like insider trading. Okay? That's the perception of your folks out here that are not able to come here. The other thing is if to get an outside bias.
Time here.
It's not involved. It's not recommended by
some of the stuff that was heard came in here and just.
I want to say a huge thank you to Corpus Christi firefighters for handling and protecting me and my building from a fourth floor stove fire a few weeks ago.
What was my
It
perception?
required 4 trucks, hustle, and proper guidance to the community to keep us safe. So thank you so much for jumping into situations like that. I would like to make a suggestion for adding a requirement that
maybe you can have the city behind you instead of causing the division. Because right now what I see is, as the young lady mentioned before, that it's just sowing that division here in the city, or the taxpayers.
Just then?
But think of that.
Yes.
That one girl.
I'm gonna throw you
out the
goddamn window.
The people that were there.
What, Jay Quinn?
Somewhere else.
Mr. Garvey, we're telling the truth. We have clubs at the school. We have clubs for special interests.
Okay, I see. So y'all want to play. Y'all want to play. Yeah, okay, we're going to play a little game. Fine, I'll play.
Thank you.
I'm more than happy to play some games.
So as a citizen here
anyone
in
who's in a
Corpus,
club,
what was in my perception?
stand your ass
If you
up.
want one is one perception that like she had for their children. What are she going for?
I have not eaten,
Something
so I'm going to
like
try to make
that.
this fast. I'm very sorry that
Don't
this is going
say
on.
that.
I have investigated many allegations
You
of
mentioned
fraud.
we spent
and the good
more
news
or less.
is if they've reported it to the FBI,
You were
instead
in
of spending
prison.
money to start hiring an attorney,
You spent more.
ask the FBI.
They
Hey,
were
give me an
in
update.
critical.
Because they'll tell you, or
It's
they should
been
able to tell
more
you
or
pretty
less.
quick if this time.
So what is this? And then you can have to sit behind you instead of causing the division.
And I mean,
Because right now, what I see is the unrelated mention before that is just sowing that division here in the city, the taxpayer.
Police department, to the attorney.
But think of that one girl that we're not going to go ask the house of people that were there. We're going to go somewhere else.
Like I said, things work when people communicate.
And it was a federal document, and it should go to the federal
police
people.
and the attorney office on every
If I
allegation
pass
of
them,
wrongdoing
if I
that
speak,
it does look like there's fraud.
we're in
And
critical.
criminal requires intent. And
It's being more
this
or
group out
less.
here, they don't fully understand that
So what
the
is
intent
this?
to do wrong
And then you can
is
have a sense
a little bit
behind
harder
you
because the
instead
attorneys,
of
their
causing
favorite
the
question
division.
is, how did they know they could not do that?
Because right now, what
And
I
that's a
see
hard
is the
thing to
related
overcome
mention
sometimes.
for that
So
is
I
just
do
a
seriously,
term,
hopefully,
that
we'll
division
talk
here
to
in the city.
FBI, get an
They
update.
go from the task
and then
fair.
consider whether the city's
Police
going to spend money or
department
not.
to the attorney.
Thank you.
But think
All
of
right,
that
thank you. I'm
one
gonna close
is not
public comment.
always to go ask
So
being.
why aren't we doing what she just suggested? I'm just curious. Instead of spending $200,000 to $300,000 to $400,000.
Behind the museum and the Corps of Engineers and the museum.
I mean, you can't get better than the FBI. Councilman Scott.
Well, I think
We're in critical requirements and time.
$200,000 to $300,000.
I'm just curious.
My sense
Instead
is you
of
were saying
spending
it's $200,000 to
$200,000 to
$300,000. We have a lawyer that
$400,000,
is on our side through the trial. as opposed to a lawyer that's going to do their investigation. I think there's some issues around that, by the way. I would ask
live outside.
the council who would hire that lawyer.
I don't have the breakdown. There is quite a bit.
I also don't
some
understand
outside
why
ownership, but I can give you that
we
answer.
spend the next
we have
week
complete
trying to get word back from the FBI
information
and
we
the
get
police
is
chief, and we put this on. I mean, 3 people can put it back on the agenda. I don't.
Police.
I don't think this has to happen tonight. I think it's a step-by-step process.
You're right. I think I brought this
And the
one.
next step would be see what the FBI says, see what the police chief says, put it back on the agenda for some sort of review, and then have at the same time have the police. Miles, you tell us, there's 5 people and here's what they cost. But I think that's what I heard you say. It's really expensive if they hold our hand through the trial. But if you're looking for a report, it might be less.
Well, keep in mind, the information is still in the process of being developed. The deadline for completion of discovery is December of this year, and there's a trial in January.
Good point.
So any person that's reviewing this case is going to want to see all the depositions that come in order to have a complete investigation. That's going to be an attorney who's going to review all the evidence in this case. Well, you might as well have an attorney representing the city itself through the trial. I mean, that really would provide a value to the city. So that's why I say it would be $200,000 to $300,000, and that's what it would cost. And actually, you just hired an attorney about a month ago to handle a case. So for the rest of the case, it was about $200,000.
It's very close, but I think it's really expensive.
No, I mean the city.
You're
did.
looking for
and so
report,
that's not
and
exaggerated
might be less.
at all. And this would be more complex than the one that was.
I just think this is a step-by-step
Well,
process, and
keep
at the end
in
of the day,
mind,
if
the
it passes, it's
information
fine.
is
I
still
get
in the process of
clarity
being
and
developed.
third eye. I just think that
The
it would be
deadline
nice to know
for
what the
completion
FBI
of
is saying.
discovery
Nice
is
to know
December
what the
of this
police chief
year.
thinks. It'd be nice
And
to know
there's
what
a
the police
trial
chief
in
says. This is a
January.
2-week investigation or a 4-week
So
investigation.
any person that's reviewing this case is going to want to see all the depositions that come in order to have a complete
Anybody
investigation.
thinks that we as the legal department are conflicted in this
That's
case, then
going
we have a
to be
duty
an
to go out
attorney
and hire
who's
that outside
going
attorney
to
as well.
review
So
all the evidence
that
in this
in and of
case.
itself, if there's a thought that we're conflicted,
You
we're going
might
to go out
as
and
well
get
have
an
an
outside
attorney
because we
representing
need to.
the city.
So that's.
You're looking, and so that's not exaggerated or
I'm not
less.
saying no to an outside
This would be
investigator. I
more
just think it's
complex.
important to hear what our chief thinks
That
and hear
was just
if the
to step
FBI
by
can give us a
step.
response. And I don't know, right? So maybe
Well, the
before
information
next
is
Tuesday, they
still
go, yeah,
in
we're
the
not
process
talking
of being
because it's an
developed.
active investigation. And
I
maybe
just
the police
think
chief
that the
says, hey,
deadline
this
is to know the condition
you need
of the
to- this needs to
discovery
go
of this
outside of
year.
us, but we don't have that. And I
There's
just
a
think it's
trial
step by
as a
step.
new week investigation or a 4-week investigation.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so
So
I
in
did
person,
hear
that's really
there was
this
a motion
case
and
is going
I
to
seconded it,
Washington's
and
seat.
I'd also heard Councilman Roy recuse himself. I'm just
You're
wondering
looking,
if
and so
some of the
that's
other,
not exactly related or
I'm
less.
abstaining. Okay, and Councilman
Just
Barrera will be
because you know,
abstaining as
it's
well. I'm
just
just
like
wondering.
it's important to keep
He's not.
things.
Okay. So, oh, I guess there's still somebody else. That's what I was wondering, if y'all were going to be recusing yourselves. So you've answered the question. Thank you.
I will say for the record, I think a few others should be
XSS.
recusing themselves. Not y'all weren't here.
I was like, Karen, this has been the craziest 9 months.
Councilman Roy reduce himself.
I know there's a motion in a second.
I am just working.
I am a
We're
huge
looking,
believer in
and so that's
independent,
not exactly
outside, because
related
I
or
said
less.
it earlier, I don't like the appearance or there being
In
any
point
kind
detection,
of connections that could cause
CIA.
from the social research terminology of bias. I think this is a very serious thing that I too
guess
sympathize,
there's still
and I
somebody
want
else.
all of the processes to be followed
That's
correctly,
what
because
I was
I
wondering,
don't want to be in a
if you all
position
were
where
going to be recusing
where
yourself.
there's uncertainty. And so
So you've answered the question.
Councilmember Scott was saying, like
Thank you.
Mr. Risley was saying,
I
if there
will
is
stand
even
for
a
the
concern
record.
for there to be a bias, then
I
we
think
should.
a few
We should
others
process
shouldn't
that.
agree with you.
What I
When that didn't
think-
work, they
Access
resorted to
and
class
I'll
lies,
support
making up
what
total lies
prevails
about
here, but
We'll
I
stand
think
for
who gets the
ourselves.
health care.
what we should do
government not quite
is
And as
start
they
to
trigger a
engage
health care crisis,
currently
they're also now triggering
there
a hunger
being
crisis.
kind of tension.
Trump's doing that,
I would call
halting SNAP
CIA.
benefits,
pass a lawsuit because
ordering
it's a
his own Department of Agriculture to rip its own contingency plan.
Is there
The money's
is
there,
current
the $6 billion in
increases to
there is already
the
an
ambulance
active group
inflation
of
factor.
lawyers
And
and
the ambulance
judges
inflation
and
factor
and
is a
everyone
calculation
that has
based, well, that
the
our ordinance.
credibility to preside over the legal system, actively
local
looking
like that.
at the pieces of
The
this.
next exhibition that we just opened in September
I
was
think,
Target Texas Studio
personally,
Practices. Target Texas
should
is a
allow
biennial
that to
exhibition
play
that we put on that always focuses on
once there's
Texas
a
artists,
determination made,
some emerging, some
revisit.
well-established. But we always
I
have a
don't know
theme
what the
around that. This year, the
ramifications
theme
are
is
of having a
studio
third group come
practices.
in while we're
So
in
it
the
kind
middle
of
of
dives
this case.
into how are these
So for
artists
me,
influenced
what
by the
is
area that they
currently.
work in. And so there's a
There
great
is
mix.
already an active group of lawyers and judges
auditor who
and
has already said
everyone
that
that
this can
has
be
the
sent
credibility to preside
our
over
other
the
law
legal
enforcement
system, actively
agencies.
looking at the
Besides
pieces
that,
of
they
this.
saw the word FEMA and they went to the
I think
FBI because they said
personally,
chain of command. That makes sense. So
Rat.
working through the audit committee, working through the FBI, what they say to us, we don't know that there is criminal. We don't know what's happening here. There could be an ethics. Maybe we go to the ethics committee out of this. I think we let these two things go to completion and then make a decision. I don't know that we can bring in a third party in conjunction with the steps that are taking place right now. But there's a motion and a second. So those are my 2 cents on it. I think that's a plausible direction.
On his head, flying a fighter jet and dumping poop on protesting citizens.
there is a case currently, or timeline would be there is a risk and secrecy of lawyers and judges that has the credibility to decide whether the legal system actively looking at the basis of this.
Not even a name for this email.
Okay,
So we're working through
initially,
the
Mr.
audit
Gunther made a
committee,
motion
working
to,
through the
refer
FBI, what they
the
say
Homewood
to
Suites
us.
fraud
We don't
allegation
know
to an
that
outside
there is
agency.
criminal. We don't know
And
what's
you
happening
seconded that,
here.
right? So now you've reworded
There
it to
could
say
be an ethics.
to outside
Maybe we
counsel?
go to
Is
the
that what
ethics
you're-
committee
okay.
out of
And you're
this.
good with that, Ms. Campos?
I think we
Instead
let
of
these
outside
two
agency,
things
he's
go to
outside
completion
counsel.
and then make a decision. I don't know that we can bring in a third party in conjunction with the steps that are taking place right
Well,
now.
my question would be if Councilman
But
Hernandez...
there's
and
emotion in a second.
Hang on. If Councilman Hernandez...
So those are my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem.
fraud.
So we're working on the order of communication, working through the IR, what they say to us.
Say it again. Go ahead, say it again. I didn't hear you.
We don't know that
Okay,
there is
y'all
criminal.
stop.
We don't
Guys,
know
stop.
exactly the
So
right.
you're... Okay.
Doctors.
What are you doing?
Say it again.
Stop.
Say it again.
Hey, enough.
Can they make motion?
Including the military.
Look,
Including the companies that manufacture.
Arden, 10-4. Bravo 121, I'll show you out. Same senior team, Arden.
Including the military. Including the companies that manufacture ibuprofen. Including.
911 Leopard 584.
Participate.
Well, that's a conflict. Miles, you can jump in any time. What is a conflict then? I mean, no, not, oh my God. Because...
There was reference to our
Pardon that?
all-white vehicles.
Yeah, there is a dollar limit for contributions of mandatory abstention. However, there is, if somebody feels that they are conflicted, then there is a lesser standard that you probably, and I always, my recommendation is if you believe there's a possibility that you are conflicted, you should abstain. It's a, I mean, that's a, that is a broader, so viewpoint.
All right, the motion's on the table. The motion, Councilman, the motion's on the table.
So we're working on the order of communication, working through the IR what they said to us. We don't know that. We don't know.
We have a motion and a table, I'm sorry. We have a motion and a second on the table to go outside counsel. All right, to go with outside counsel. Councilman Scott?
And all the nonsense.
I received contributions from both sides of this equation.
All right.
I think I got, as I think through all the parties involved,
In a table.
I think that if nothing else makes
I'm
me
sorry.
not conflicted out because I can.
A million of emotion
All right,
and a
we're-
second on the table to go outside counsel.
Okay, it's 11:23. Please submit your vote.
AI might take their job.
2759
And all the
When you're,
nonsense we see on the news every
please
day,
submit
the
your book.
over-the-top rhetoric, the
Over Medicaid
fabricated
engine 14,
conspiracies,
Medicaid
the-
engine 14
the
for
weird
comma.
videos of a U.S. president with a crown on his head flying a fighter jet.
Please
and
submit
dumping
your
poop
book.
on
Dr. Zero, good one.
protesting citizens.
Gray hat.
All of that is designed.
Please submit your book.
Okay, the motion fails. So is there another motion?
Is our
to-
physical.
Councilman? Oh, motion? Councilwoman, hold on. Paxton?
Dispatch Medicaid.
I'm sorry, okay, he was
Okay, go
first, yeah, sorry.
Councilman Wesley? Yes, sir.
I
Thank you,
just wanted to
Mr.
say
President.
to the
So
can we
motion,
bring that drawing back up?
Councilwoman,
Thanks for
I'll
hanging in
do.
here for this
The
long.
council will adopt
so
a federal and a state legislative agenda and 2 days to keep on the calendar, November 19th, and make city council meeting where the working city council can have a workshop format
I would just
on the legislative agenda. There'll be a discussion. Ryan will present what he's directed through the past 2 years with the city council. On November 19, there'll be discussion amongst the council of what do we want our state and federal legislative agenda to be for the
Outpatient clinic on West Point, 925, SPD eastbound. West Point, SPD eastbound.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The only reason why, again, what I was trying to say is that either if I would vote yay or nay, I don't want an advantage. I don't want an unfair advantage. I want the process to go through and make sure that we have the ability to cooperate fully.
So motion
And
is
so
here for
that's the reason
some
why
ways
I'm
for
upset.
hanging
sorry.
in
I
here
think I
for
made
this
an
long
error.
day. But
The
the other thing
abstentions
I
don't
just
count
want
towards the
to
vote.
say
Yeah,
for my
they don't.
perspective,
They
I
don't. That's
want
my fault.
everybody
I'm
to
sorry, I'm just
understand
tired.
why
No.
I'm abstained
Yeah, they
because
don't
the
count.
fact
That's a
that I
mistake.
was
I'm
on
sorry.
council
So, anyway.
and I was in this
Excuse me,
process
did it
and I
pass
was
then,
under a
Rebecca, or what?
deposition. I feel
Yes, it
that.
did.
So we just try to
3394.
Norris.
Councilman Moore is still trying to.
That's all right. I think the ones that were listening understood what I was saying. Thank you.
We're doing a callback to verify that there are robbery.
Alrighty, so there being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned at 11:26.
I don't know.
Property accident at the tax assessor's office.
Norris.
100 Austin Street.
That's right.
Vicinity versus the Grave Ford F1.
But the other thing I just want to say from my perspective, I want everybody to understand why I'm staying.
Using now their words, and
Because-
without me making them up or you making them up, and without them being your words, you don't have any reason to disagree with that characterization.
No.
That's in the conversation. It was clearly nobody was fighting about it in the
Exactly, yes.
in the discussion.
Yes.
Okay, and so. Is it okay then if we refer to it, at least while we're talking about this recording, as being, the concern here was the tampering with a United States federal porthole?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's very clear, I think, by this point in time, and again, we don't know the exact date, but by this point in time, we're between the first reading and the second reading.
Yes.
So we know we're between February 20 and April 23rd.
That is correct.
And during that time frame, it's very clear that Peter has full knowledge that this tampering with the United States federal porthole has occurred.
Yes.
And it's very clear he is the one that characterizes it or uses the word scheme. And he actually goes into an explanation about how there was a need for an infrastructure component, so they made up this FEMA thing, and it was a scheme to basically get the money. That's all in there, right?
Okay, and so is it
And there was a scheme to get the money that was the scheme is the tampering with the United States federal portal, right? To get $2 million. And, correct?
Yes.
And is that what is that consistent with what your investigation found?
Worm.
Yes.
Yeah. But when you got in front of City Council, you did recommend the project.
Clear how he
Yes, I
is
did.
going
That was a
to
question.
characterize
And why?
it, or use
Why would you
it,
do
or
that if
don't
it's not
have any
supported by your
reason
analysis?
to do that.
Because at the time when they were saying
He
that
actually got
it would
to
help
carry
out
an
downtown,
explanation about how,
then
there was a
I'm
need
fine with
for
that.
an
I can
employee
understand that.
structure.
And go forward.
But he
In other
made
words,
up
would
this
it be fair
ephemeral
to say that
decision.
falls again then over on the politics side?
It was a scheme to basically
So the
get
politics
the
side
money.
were for you to get behind.
That's all in there.
Who did you let know, let's say, in this March, I guess from sometime probably after March 7 and before the second reading, fair enough?
That's fair enough, and I don't know, from memory, I'm gonna tell you who I did, who I believe I told. I may have told others, but I'm not for sure, but I know I told the mayor. I know I told Councilman Roy, Councilman Pusley, and maybe Councilman Suckley, but for sure Pusley and the mayor in one phone call. It was right after I had met with the architect, and then Councilman Roy was meeting with me and talking with me frequently, so him as well.
Okay, who did you tell shortly after you met with the architect?
The mayor and Councilman Pusley, I believe, called me around the 5. I was picking up my son at his job, so it was around the 5 o'clock time frame. I believe it was that same day.
Okay, and
I did what I believed I told. I may have told others.
you made a reference, and so I'm going to go back to it because it's a little bit, we're taking it out of sequence, my fault.
Yes.
You referred to a meeting that you had with Philip Ramirez, right?
Right.
I think that, and I have this dated by another
phone call
information with
It was right after
with
I
Sony,
had met
okay?
with the
I think that happened probably on or just before April 8th, about a week before this recording. Does that sound about right?
That probably, because I'm referencing it in that recording.
Yeah. Okay, and the way that Sony had described it, and I understand we took his deposition yesterday.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. He described it as, one of the words he agreed and recalled saying to my client shortly after the meeting was that Philip was stuttering. Do you remember that?
I remember, yes.
And also just his description couldn't complete a sentence. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
And then you go on, you said that, however, because the council wanted this on the agenda for them to consider, it's on. And so my question to you is, when you are saying in that conversation with the chief that the council wanted it on the agenda, who are you referring to?
Yeah, I'm not for certain, but I know the mayor and I think Pusley were okay with the issue at hand of not having an explanation and wanted to proceed with having it on.
Both of them, you had informed them that there had been this altering or tampering or forging of a federal document, but they were still willing to support it, right?
Correct.
And that's true for the mayor and true for, I don't want to throw them together, so I'm going to ask individual questions. So,
do you agree with that?
What you're telling me then is that the mayor had definitely been made aware that the altered federal document used at the time of the first reading to support the request for $2 million, that even though it had been a federally altered document, she was still, had indicated she's still okay with moving forward and approving it.
Today.
And same thing for Mike Pusley.
Yes, we're okay with
And
the
if I
issue
heard you
at
right
hand
earlier,
of
it sounds like
not
same
having
thing
an
for
agenda
Roland
to
Barrera
make
because of what you explained earlier.
Correct. He described her seeds with heavy
Inflation has
on
remained
numbers.
low and steady, averaging just 2.5%, compared to a painful average of 5% under Biden, and we know it was historically higher than that for those of President Biden's term. Meanwhile, real private sector wages are on track to rise by almost $50 billion since President Trump took office, a significant change to the Biden years where private sector wages...
Yes, question. And I'm familiar with this. I've had a couple of discussions about it.
To support the request for $2 million
between
that
what
even though it had been, I've had a really to document, she was still had indicated.
My concern is not so much funding this from
okay
Type B,
moving forward and approving
but
it.
maybe you can speak to the difference or the disparity between the EDC and Type B and why the choice was
heard you right
one
earlier.
was a
It
recommendation of 1
sounds
million,
like
one was 2
same
million.
thing for Roland Guerrero because of what you explained earlier.
So the EDC came back with a recommendation of a little over $1 million.
He described her seed well with having
we can talk about it, we can reconsider, we can disagree, we can shake hands and compromise on some of those issues.
Can you give some more detail
But
besides
this is
that?
something that
Yes,
I mean, there was a discussion on
with this. I've had a couple of discussions about to support the rest of our dollar to spare between
behind me are the people who are dealing with the problem. Now let's just recap exactly what's happening in this town related to the government shutdown. We
still
have had
Okay, what I'm asking is why
my
did
concern
the
is not
EDC
so much as I am still in this part moving forward and improving it.
Type B?
Okay, I think one of the other things we'd ask talk is just using our wage scale right now.
Contractual arrangement at the EDC, he should really be presenting this. Mike, if you can come up. Because we pay them on our behalf to represent any type of Type B to the EDC, so let's hear from Mike.
There you go. Mike
Just as you walk in.
You're EDC. So when we get, one of the things that we do is, for the contractors, we get projects in, we run applications on them, and we run the analysis. So when we ran the analysis, and that's how much incentive, overtime, and how much back. There is nothing in the guidelines, but kind of by tradition, the Type B looks for a 5-year payback and at least 12% ROI. And so that came out to me. We presented it to our board. Our board went with the $2 million. They thought it was an important addition to downtown, and that's what they went with. But that's where our recommendation was as it came through. And then Type B, went with that and with those.
Not to be happy to
that statement that they believe that it was important for downtown to move to that.
Man in the middle.
Councilman, do you mind? So I'm
Man
on
in
the
the
board,
middle.
and I was actually one of the people that went against the initial recommendation because usually we have kind of a standard. We don't have a rule, but we have a standard of being at 10% of total investment, right? That's what we come up to. And at that time, we were going up to 15 to 20%. And that would have been more money than we've given any other property downtown anywhere by percentage. So the suggestion was, from me, was no.
Can you give some more
to
help
the
us
10%
detection
marker?
Okay,
Yes.
I had asked Alyssa this
I'd
morning
like
as to what
to
the
do
total
that.
investment is when you add in the
That
TERS
they
funding.
believe.
I believe it was 1.4
Detention.
million. And then this additional 2
Important
million, and
for
what it would be for
downtown
the
to
whole
leave
project. And she told me it
Men
would be
in the middle.
12%.
Time that you get back to
Total.
Whataburger Field.
Councilman.
So
66 miles.
you might.
But,
So I am in the portal.
I guess what I'm concerned about
Man in the pocket.
and honestly, I don't have a problem with
And I was
investing in
actually
funding
one
because I
of the
think it's an
people
important
that
thing.
went against the
I just
initial
think we've got other
recommendation
hotels and
because
everything coming up.
we have kind
that,
of a standard.
You know, we set the precedent.
We don't have
And
a
I say
rule.
the same thing when we did the
We have a
600.
standard.
Before the 600 doesn't, we don't invest $5,000 per unit. And then when 600 came in, I think it came up to 24. Now we're, I think, up to 30. I think you mentioned we're up to 30. I just think, if we set these precedents, it's going to have to apply to future hotels, regardless of what
in the address they believe
we're going to be investing in 12%. Or whatever that is, I think we should be fair and have
this additional
funding come
important
from
point
a type B for those other hotels as well.
She told
Regardless
men
of
in the middle
what it is,
told
I just want to make sure that if we set a standard, that we adhere to that standard for everyone.
But so
okay.
All
right, thank you.
I guess what I'm concerned with, man, is a part of it.
So kind of along those same lines,
And honestly,
you
I
said
don't have a problem.
the precedent's at 10% before.
And I was absolutely wanting to think people that they went against. Actually, we read other details because you're coming up.
12%.
We have kind of
So you
a
were
standard.
comfortable, you said with 12%?
We set the press and we
Say that
don't.
again?
No, so when we do an economic impact model, it'll tell you what the payback is for the incentive over the years in an ROI.
I think you had said,
And
Jim,
it's not
to
written down in
30.
any guidelines, but by tradition.
I just think
type
that
they
we
use looked
set
at,
these precedents. It's going to
12%
have to
ROI
apply
and
to
5%
future
payback,
hotels.
which is how we got that number. The
Regardless of what
180,
the address they really
that's
are
how we
going
get that.
to
It's
be
pure,
investing in 12.
in our economic impact
Additional
model.
Whatever
city
that
manager
is,
Kind of
appointees are
following the
opposite.
same line that goes
to those terms.
following
So each council
you
member
go
gets
back
one
and
appointee.
look at
Yes,
that.
they're not voted on, they're just appointed by the
Days
council
of
members.
hire.
The hotels as well.
In terms of,
Yeah,
well, should
they're
we
just
shift
appointed.
that a
We'll
little
barely
bit?
see
Because,
in the middle.
again, we've
Yeah,
got
I mean,
other
I don't think
projects
anybody's
that we know
voting
that
against
are in
anybody's
pipeline,
appointee
and does it
if
make
it's their
sense
appointee.
When
to
we
hold
do
us to
an
that
economic
standard? That's
impact
the only thing
model,
I
get
kind
Bart
of
Brown's
tell
off
you
of there.
what the payback is for the incentive
But,
over the
because there
years.
is,
Now,
we
give
get
it-
business now,
I
unfortunately.
think you had said,
It's a lot
Jim,
different than
not
5
for
years ago.
30 guidelines,
No,
but I just
I
think
understand
that
completely.
we set these
I would
precedents.
be open to taking a look at that.
It's
again.
going to
Yeah, that'd
have
be great.
to
I think
apply
that,
to
I think
our
that would be
future
prudent. I think that would be good to
content,
just
which
take
is
an
how we
overall
got
look at
that
that,
number.
and maybe adjust the business
The
model a little bit,
regardless
because I
of
do
what
think
it would be like
that
for
if we're
us,
going to have
they
successful
really are
projects in the
going to
future,
invest in
that
12.
we got to make sure we set the bar.
Our economic impact model.
This is Corpus Christi Fire.
That's realistic.
City of Corpus Christi.
Well, and I think I would just add to that, we have to keep
This
in
is where it
mind,
has to
no two projects, it doesn't matter if they're both hotels. No two projects are the same. So
It makes sense
on
to
one
hold
hand,
this economic.
yes,
The only thing I want
you're
to
talking
tell
about,
you
well,
payback
we're
is for
setting,
the incentive
setting
over the
an
years our way.
unofficial precedent.
The way we did business now,
Let's think about that.
I think you had
Is there
said
something really wrong with that?
there's a lot different
If
than
the
5
model
years.
works out. Now, right, if it makes
There's
sense.
guidelines.
My concern is,
I
like I
just
said,
think
that's
that we set these
you
precedents
don't want to get into a
to take
situation where, why did you give them more than me?
No,
Jumping
but
into
back to my
situations
point.
like that.
My
I
point
would like
is,
to make a suggestion for
there
adding
will
a
not be an
requirement.
urban hotel exactly
It's
like
just
this one.
how we
There are
docked
no
that
two hotel
number.
situations exactly the
It's
same. They just are
realistic.
not. They're just not,
And
unless the
I
same.
think I
it's
would
the same
just
builder.
add-
You're
So my-
correct. I'm not saying that the circumstances will be the same. What I'm saying is
no
that we
two
don't have a
projects.
standard
I understand.
for a cap on
I
what we
don't-
would
it
invest
doesn't
in the
matter
total
if
project.
they're
I understand.
So whatever the circumstances
Right.
would be, we should vote as a body
No two
to have a
projects
standard
are
and
the
a
same.
cap as to how much we would invest. So we
Man
don't
in the
come
middle.
across these things.
I
We're
understand.
consistently setting
And
these
I think,
standards.
equally important is, let's look at each project.
Motion carries.
Because each project is different. And each project is something you really have to consider. And sometimes you do have to consider, well, yeah, maybe we traditionally do it this way, but this is a great thing, we have to move something forward. So I think my point is all points of views here are very valid, but I think we do have to balance them out
Realist
with
or
each
not,
project.
they're
But yes,
just
there has to be
not.
some sort of, not cap,
And
but.
not to say
have to have
that
the
the
circumstances whether
will
it's
be the
driven by
same
EDC or something, but where we have a standard that we follow, that we can get
You
to a
don't
point.
have
He made
standard
very calculated,
cap
was it 12% and
doesn't
5%
matter
ROI, something like that,
if it's
right?
not.
So whatever that is, I don't mind what it is. Let's make
So
let's make
whatever
that
the
decision and then
circumstance, we
vote on
should
it
vote
as
as a body
standard
to have
so
a
they
standard
have
or the
clarity as to
cap
what
as
they
to
do,
how
and there's no one-offs like
Slan
we're doing
and
it.
Comet
So
Rose
it just,
Yeah, it's just something
you
to
can
look at
safely
and
sit
carefully
in that
with warming.
stand.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, equally important is let's look at each project because each project is different.
And just for clarification, the
And each
initial dollar
project
amount
is something
that
you
we
really
approved
have to
is
consider,
just over
and sometimes
$1
you do
Correct.
have to consider
The board,
well.
or the EDC board.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we traditionally
to the
do it
EDC
this
board
way,
voting on the $1
but
million.
this is a great thing.
No, that was all we brought to
People
you.
roles.
We brought to
Okay.
you
So I'm sorry, the type B board.
type B, yes.
So we have, right now, it's 3.5 million total, is that correct?
Yeah, 3.4?
3.4,
3.4.
okay.
It's just
Yes,
a
sir.
question
And
that we
initially
have
it
a
was-
question that we important is let's look
What?
at the project because each
1.5?
project is different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just
So we
just
were gonna
for
add like 1.9
clarification
to it.
and
Okay.
initial
Thank
Roger
you.
is something you really
Go ahead and
have to
entertain a
consider.
motion.
Sometimes you do have to consider well.
Councilman Presley.
So,
Yeah,
Mike, I'm
maybe we
confused now.
traditionally do
Did
issue this
the
way.
EDC make a different recommendation than the type B
This
board?
is a great
Yes.
thing.
We made the recommendation of $1,043,000.
Okay, 1,300,000.
So I'm
1
sorry,
million
the type B
33,000.
board. Type
Type B board granted.
Now, this
Yes.
is a recommendation. Type B can do
So
whatever
we
they want.
have, right now, it's
Okay.
3.5 million
But I
total.
will go along, I think
Is
what
that
the mayor is
correct?
saying is important.
2.4.
Not every hotel is going to have to
3.4.
be built in a flood zone where they have to
It's
elevate
just
the
a
hotel
question
4
that
feet
we
in
have a
the air.
question that the
That's sort of
important is
special
let's look at
circumstances
the
that we
project
wouldn't ordinarily
because
look
each
at on
project
some
is different.
projects. So you got to be really careful about saying.
just adjust one
This is
our
a
own points
lock-in
and-
standard that we're going to follow in every case.
Okay,
Every case
I'm
has
going to show Roger.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. That's exactly my point. Here we go. Councilman Roy.
So
2 degree it is, Michael.
the last thing I want to
Consider
say
that.
about this is that
Your budget's
I understand
pretty
what
high. It went
Councilman
up
Puss
quite
is
a
saying
bit, I
because
thought. So I
to
think
a
we have to
degree
go
is
back,
that
we have to look
if
at
we
it, maybe
raise that,
table
then you
this
might have
item,
some developers
just
that
maybe
might just
tweak
take
it
it
on
up to
some
the
things.
ceiling.
1 million.
And I
So
think
we
we
either
have
got
to
to
take
have
that into
flexibility
consideration.
involved,
Unless
or
you've
we have
been
to
there,
recognize
$1 million.
maybe
outliers,
that doesn't
certain
sound like lots to
circumstances
some people,
that
but
are
for
not
people
the
that are
norm,
working all those
like
hours, they
operating
don't
in a
get to
flood
see their
zone,
kids.
for
3
example.
billion.
It's a lot.
Or some
And
rules
I
that
think- I thought it
change,
was
and all of a
pretty cheap,
sudden
the
there was
amount.
undue
Type
burden
B4
I don't know what
to the
they're making.
developer that they
So I
didn't
just think we
foresee,
need to-
Now,
and
yes.
understand those outliers.
Rat.
And I think, again, when you're doing your analysis, then maybe build in for an outlier if you can. I know we do that sometimes. We'll have an unusual
Thank you,
project,
Councilman.
and we're looking at what our debt
That's
service is at
exactly
the
my
end,
point.
and we're saying, okay, this is the norm
Here
here,
we
but
go.
we're going to allow it here because of this.
Councilman Bryan.
And so I just
That's
think
not
that
true.
we have to have flexibility because unfortunately, I think in the future,
It's pretty great as
nothing
Michael.
is going to be cookie cutter.
No, I agree.
The
And-
last
and
thing I
as,
want to
Councilman
say
Hunter will
about
tell you,
this
it was
is that
a-
I
it was a
understand
spirited
what
discussion
Councilman
that
Pussy
day.
is saying.
So, I mean, it's not
Because
just
2
a-
degree
the-
is
the
that
EDC
if we
board is
raise
by no
that,
means
then you
just
might
a
have
rubber
some
stamp.
developers
There's
that
a lot
might
of
just
discussion.
take it up
Yeah, there
to
was.
the.
I was in Egypt at the time.
And
but
I
hear
think,
there's a
again,
lot of
I remember-
when you're doing your
Councilman
analysis,
Suckley.
Thanks, Mayor.
then
I agree with many of the
Minder.
points that have been discussed. It's a different project. I did talk to
In
Heather
point
this morning just
detection
because I
and
did have the
response.
same questions of things that we're talking about. And
Yes, sir.
I think it's important that we make sure that we document, because there are different variables involved here that we've all articulated, is I think it's important that we document what those variables were to coming to this decision in this particular case, so that we don't set a new cap, to use the word, at 12% that everybody can expect the next hotel project should be treated the same. So,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
We've been doing this 14 years for the city, and so.
Yeah. Thank you. Councilman Hedrum?
So as a banker, when you invest in a new project or go into a new project with someone, you're not going to check the flood zone first
And I
when you're
think,
building?
I remember when you're doing,
That's the big concern I have.
With many
As an
terms
insurance agent,
that
that's
have
the
been
first thing we
discussed.
check. You can't even start
it's
building
a
the building
different
until it's
project.
insured.
Yeah,
So when
but-
you're building in
I
a flood
did
zone, it has to be
talk
already
I had
checked,
a
so why are we
strong
doing this?
intention
Because it
because I
changed. 6
had the
months
same
after.
questions of things that we're
changed.
talking
Changed.
about.
It was, the rules had come out later.
I think it's important that we make sure that
We've been working on the rules for
because
2
there are
years.
different variables involved here that we've all
You can expect
articulated,
those changes
as I think
2
it's
years ago.
important that we document what those variables were to come into this decision in this particular case so that we don't
Okay,
set a
so
new
every
cap to
project that
use
would be
them.
downtown would be in a flood zone.
Word
Right,
and
so
12%.
are we gonna give the benefit to everybody that's downtown, that's in a flood zone? That's almost incentivizing you to build in the flood zone.
With
So
many
I
assurance
don't wanna
states that
tie
the
it
first
to this
thing
flood zone
that you
thing.
can't even
It's not,
start
and it
building
shouldn't
a
be.
different approach.
It should be based on the individual circumstances, but
So when
in
you're
any
building
cases, you would have a
flood,
cap
it has
on
to be our
something as to
church.
what your
Why are
investment
we doing
investment would be.
intention? Because
Right,
it
regardless
has
of
the
the
same
circumstances.
questions
You don't have to
of
hit
things
that
that
cap.
we're talking
Okay,
about.
but there could be opportunities
The
for
rules
special
that come
cases to do
out
it. It
later.
doesn't have to be flood zone. It could be something else.
I think
And
it's
so what I'm saying is that we don't want to
make
continue
sure that
doing this
we've
in
been
the sense,
working on the
and what I was
rules
concerned
to
about
their
with the
own
600
different
building was a very
variables
similar
involved
thing.
here that we've
We
all,
just,
you can
if
expect
we don't
that
put a
we
standard in
change
place and say,
these
this
2
is our
years.
ceiling, then it's just going to be more and more pressure is going to come up and up, and we've already proven that. So what I'm saying, it has nothing to do with the flood zone. Absolutely nothing, what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we have to have a hard, fast standard as to how much top end we'll invest in a project.
That's almost
Because
incentivizing
just
to create, to
because,
build
you know,
the flood
this is taxpayer
zone.
dollars, right?
No, we understand that.
So,
Councilman,
Maddie,
That's what I'm
every
saying.
project,
Sure,
and we're going
I
to drop
don't
this,
want
every
to
project
date
is
the hives
different.
to
You
this
put a cap
flood
and you're
zone.
going to lose projects that you wish you
You
didn't.
can't
I'm
even
not saying the
start a
sky's the
building.
limit, but that's not our job.
It shouldn't
We're
have a different
policymakers on this
approach.
end. You go back, you've heard some
It
comments.
should be
and
based
maybe we
on
just
the
need to look at,
individual circumstances,
different,
but so,
Okay, but
in
what
those
different
levels
cases,
of
you
how
want
we
to have a cap
move
has to
these
be on our
projects
own
forward.
insurance.
So what I'm saying is, but where does that stop? I mean, you could say, well,
No,
if you don't give me
they're
50%,
gonna look at it.
if you don't give me 50%, I'm not going to do this project.
No, that's not what's
Well, I mean, where do you
So
stop?
what
Well, that's
I'm
their job to
saying
bring it back
has
to us.
nothing
Please
to
give
do
us a
with the flood
recommendation.
zone.
for approval. And also,
Absolutely
so we can vote on
nothing. What
something.
I'm
Right, we have a
saying-
motion, yes, we have a motion, we have a second.
What I'm saying
Already
is
asked for
that
further
we have to
discussion, so
have
I'm
a
not gonna do
rapid,
that
hard,
again.
and fast standard
All in favor,
as to
say
how
aye.
much and will
Any
invest
opposed, say
in a
no.
product
No.
that's
I abstain.
almost
It's
incentivizing
not enough
just to
information for
create
me, so
because
leave
it.
And I
No,
wanna say
the flux is
That
taxpayer
I can't wait
dollars.
for
Right.
this hotel to be
No,
built, and
no,
I can't
we
wait
understand
to see
that.
the hundreds of people walking
Your
out of this
brand.
hotel,
So, Maddie,
walking into
that's
restaurants,
what I'm
walking
saying.
into coffee shops, walking
Sure.
into, the downtown area.
we're going to
I mean,
drop
this is going
this
to be a
every
game changer.
project
I
is to
respect
the highest
all
to
of
this
what has
part.
been said today, and it is all able to be
And you're
addressed
going to
moving
lose
forward.
projects
We just
that you
evolve.
wish you can't.
But no two projects are the same, and you
I'm
give
not
consideration
saying sky,
the way
but
we need
that's
to
not
give
our
consideration
job.
based on the vision of a council
It's-
growing the city. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Who seconded the motion, Mayor? I'm so sorry. Who seconded? Seconded. You made. Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. The last item pulled was item number
I mean,
4.
we're doing so well.
Mayor, City
But
Council,
that's their
City
own
Manager,
way.
City Staff,
Please give us a reclamation zone of the group.
Chief Marco,
And
members of the
also,
media,
so we can vote on what I'm
those present
saying.
in person, and the
All
many
right,
residents
we have a
who are watching
motion.
today's council meeting
Yes,
online.
we have a
Good
motion.
afternoon to you all.
We have a
Today,
second.
I'm here primarily in support of
What
the
I'm
skate
saying
park that we
is
just
that
talked
we
about, but also
Ransomware.
on behalf of many residents of this community, deeply concerned about a potential $2 million handout to a project in the guise
So
of
thank
an
you for being
incentive.
here.
On February
Thank you.
20th of this year,
Yes,
City
sir.
staff presented the
Being no one
council
will close
a
public
memo
hearing.
said I did
summarizing a
item
$2
number
million
2.
grant
I'm
Which is
so
resolution
sorry.
Economic
authorizing a
Development Fund
developer
for
participation
costs
agreement
associated
with
Seconded, we made
LSK
out.
AE
Development.
flood zone requirements for a project that was fully committed
Thank you
and
so
ready
much.
construction.
Okay.
You have a
All right.
copy of that memorandum.
Good afternoon, Council. Mike Dice, Development Services. What we have today, first item is a participation agreement
of the two
with Cruz Valley Estates for over
$1,000 for certain upgrades,
depths.
$1,510,000
Also,
and $87.50
of many
for
residents
a
of this
flood zone
community.
requirement that the applicant claimed was just outdated
and 2 dates to keep on your calendar. November 19, that's a city council meeting. We'll be working with the city council in kind of a workshop format on the legislative agenda. So it'll be a discussion. Brian will present what he's collected through the past 2 years with the city council. On November 19, there'll be discussion amongst the council of what do we want our state and federal legislative agenda to be.
Have a release number and a release date. There's no exceptions to that. Somehow, these were missing. In fact, it seems they were poorly photoshopped and edited to support the narrative. That's what I circled over there. This now is the original FEMA webpage, complete with a FEMA release date, the release number, and the media release date.
And also 80s and
that was 2 years ago. If true, this is an act of falsifying, forging, or tampering a federal document with an intent to deceive for financial gain, $2 million to be precise. There are only 3 questions that need to be answered at this point. Why? We can guess that answer. To procure $2 million in tax dollars. Who? I'm told this is still under investigation and we don't have that answer. What's next? Are we going to reward the perpetrators of this, or are we going to investigate and call for a punishment? The worst of all things that we can do to ourselves is cheat and defraud ourselves. Thank you. Have a good day.
Officer from your Corpus Christi Regional EDC. Let me bring up
also ACs and all these 2 years ago.
Get rid of this. Can I get rid of that?
If true, this is an act of falsifying, forging, or tampering a federal document with an intent to deceive.
That's not mine. Thank you, though.
Malware.
Where is it? Homewood Suites. There you go, sir. All right, so Homewood Suites had approached the EDC and brought us an application. We worked through it, and it went through our board for recommendation to the Type B. The Type B
the worst of all things that we can do to ourselves. This now is geological and deeper
for the catalytic nature of the area.
Have a
Let me
good
ask you, what
day.
were you doing in 2012?
We've been from the order
In 2012, the city started working on Chaparral Street from William, which is now Lomax, to Lawrence. And it was going to be done in 6 months.
There you go, sir.
And in May of 2014,
we said at
they
approach
opened
to the
one lane.
EDC and
Until then, everything else closed. And I'll give you an idea. So Bourbon Street, Porky's, Sonia's, Stinger's, Betty's, Treasures, they all closed. And how many have reopened? How much activity has been on that side? Nothing for 14 years. So here's a chance that the Type B saw. They did it based on not FEMA, not any of that other stuff, but the catalytic nature of this. And there are other programs that have done, that the city has done and Type B has done, that match into that to move this forward. The city, for example, did a tax abatement for Cosmopolitan, and it brings hundreds of people downtown. One thing we found out, especially in the EDC, is younger generations tend to want to be downtown. The DMD itself finished a survey, and it talked about this. It talked about having to be downtown. They tend to stay in apartments longer. Even when they're married, they stay in apartments. It's not until they have kids do they actually move out into a single family. 2 years ago, we were talking about our quality of place project study, and one of the council members said, and we were saying we need 2,000 residents downtown, and he asked, how can you get 2,000 houses downtown? I mean, there's a disconnect, and I get it. You know, I was born in '57, so, but I do understand the need to make downtown a catalyst.
We found out, especially
right
in
now,
DC,
when I come across the bridge heading south, I come in and hit on Taylor Street, right? Now there's this weird turn, but anyway, I end up on Taylor Street. Where's the bridge dump you off now? Where's the new bridge going to dump you off? It's going to dump you off at Crosstown. And there's this 270 that you do, and you come on down. Now they'll keep what's left of 37 and take you down to the bayfront, but it'll take you. So this is based on catalytic farce of that. We went through it. Now, when we do economic impact models, we do impact, we do jobs, we do investment, we do how much money is going to come back. And we came back with a number, and our board came back with a number. The Type B decided to move down to $2 million. But I want you to understand that there's an AG opinion that especially right now. We understand, because there was a question on whether a Type A at the time could do an economic impact.
Weird term,
it says, as long as it's properly done, it's properly in the guidelines, which it is.
Where's the
Type B
Gump you
can
off
determine
now.
Economic development and do whatever.
Where's the new
you,
bridge
as a council,
going to
can
dump
choose
you off?
to take
It's going
the $2
to
million.
dump you off
You
at
can say no
Crosstown.
to it, or you can lower it.
And there's
So,
just
any
270
questions?
that you do,
I'm certainly going
and
through
you
it or
come on
whatever,
down.
but,
Councilwoman
Now
Cummings.
they'll keep what's left to
let
37
me see.
and take you down to the
Let's see.
bayfront.
You
but
just
it'll
mentioned
take you.
that there was a study done that we,
So this is based
we
on a
needed like
catalog
2,000
farce of
residents.
that.
yes,
down.
and it was our study. It was
We
the
went
quality of
through
place.
it
And you mentioned Cosmopolitan.
because there was
Do you
a
remember, it
question
was
whether
before my
to
time,
detect
so
high
do you remember how much of an
right
incentive
could
they
be
had
out there
received?
is spare
They
return
received
as long
100%
as
new
we don't
construction
want
for
to
2
take
years
away the
and then
guidelines,
50%
which it
for
is.
6 years.
Do you know
Where's
what that
the type
amounted to?
dump you can determine economic development
I would
and
have
do
to
what
figure
it
that
is.
out, but 20 million,
Where's
call
the
it
new
10,
account going
divided
to
by
dump you to
100,
go
that's
to dump you off?
100,000.
You can cross down or you can
Times
lower it.
0.3, so that's,
And
yeah,
there's
I'm doing
just
that.
270
times
that you do,
5,
and certainly again, you
750,000.
come on down.
So the Cosmopolitan received 750,000, about.
Right.
And the project itself was how many millions?
I think it's 24, 27.
Because
I'd have to
they're
look at
doing
that,
a member
So
service before
750,000
my
right
time.
now, we're
So do you
we've been
remember
considering
how much of
almost
an
3
incident
million,
they had received?
right, on this
They
project.
received
Yes.
an
3
opportunity
million
to
for
take the
a
win.
30, I think the last amount
90
that
of the
I
year.
heard was 38 million for the
Do
project.
you know
So
where's
I
that
don't
amount?
understand why
You
we would
can't
be
determine.
needing to
Red
give
team.
more money for a project that has already started. Like,
Well,
why?
first off, they didn't start before, they got their application in before they started construction.
CIA.
And secondly, I mean, getting downtown is difficult. I mean, take a look at how much stuff has been downtown. Nothing has really gone up without the Best Western, got incentives. The Cosmopolitan, it's difficult to do.
We still have some incentives that'll be
And if you
paid
want
out
to
over the
do
next couple of
this, if you
years,
want
and so
downtown to be
we
a
will
center,
look
then
at
you're
that,
going to have to
see
do
if those
it. You
expenditures
need to
are
decide,
fully
the 9 of you right
expended,
now,
one,
is,
what our interest
are we going to
rate
make this a
is.
center? If not, vote no, let's move on with life.
And
But
I don't,
And
think
we
we
see
I think we all agree
750
that we
down
want
about.
to incentivize.
All right.
Yeah,
To
we
give
do.
you more
We-
money for
I
a
mean, I think we all
project that
agree,
has
right, that
already
we want
started
downtown
like
to
a
thrive. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
But this is
First
the
off,
cost.
Okay, they may not
Heath.
nod, right,
No,
because
I-
it's me saying it, but I think we all agree that we want downtown to thrive, and we need more people living, and we all can agree. But I think the
The amount.
the
I know it's
amount
hard.
is
Don't get me wrong, there's a reason why I'm on this side and you're on that
okay.
side.
So
I
for me, it would be the amount, and then for another reason would be the way it was presented. And if y'all remember, I abstained on the first vote because
Yet,
there was a lot of
I think
information,
we
and I
all
really
agree,
couldn't get
right,
why
that we start downtown to thrive.
needed to.
Yeah.
I mean, after the project had
This
already
is the
been
cost.
vetted and they had already applied.
Okay,
The
they
EDC
may
had
not
already recommended
you
$1 million.
know, because it's gonna say
Why
that.
come
But I
back,
think
and ask for more? But
want downtown
through
to
these
thrive.
conversations and because of
And we
this,
need more
I'm being
people living.
educated that according
And we
to
are
an
doing
individual
it.
that
enough, $38 trillion
But I
because
think anybody can
Corpus
just
Christi
go
has a
open it
policy
and go
run it up
that
some
we
more.
don't
And
incentivize.
he claims that this reckless
until
action is needed
we don't
to stop
incentivize until
Republicans,
we
in
know
his
before
words,
the project
and I'm going to quote
begins,
him,
right?
People will.
But the state of
from
Texas
taking
has
healthcare
different
yes, there's a lot of information
category or ways. I mean, their policy is different. That they're able, according to the policy, even after the project has begun, the developer can come back to the Type B board and ask for more money. That's okay. So for me, the problem I think is that for one thing, do you know how much money we do have in the Type B fund right now to incentivize other?
Right now, if I'm correct, it's 12 million.
Until we don't incentivize,
So 12 million that we have right now that we could incentivize others to invest in downtown, or and it has to be downtown, or it can be anywhere.
As long as the project
is just
in the
that they are
guidelines,
able, according to the
certainly
policy, even after the
I've met with
project
people
has
and I've told them that
man in the middle.
So I was having this conversation with this individual, and I was saying, I don't think a lot of people know that. I mean, it's like the guys or the people that our professional developers know that they can go after this money, but your mom and pop business owners may not. And it's kind of okay. Well, I'm not in the business. I'm a community, activist, and so
we don't
that's not my wheelhouse. I'm just saying the ordinary person that that I hang out with. That I go visit the taquerias and whatever. They never. We don't have these kinds of conversations, but I'm grateful that in a way, that this happened, because this would be an opportunity to inform the public that there's actually $12 million that we could help others and incentivize and help to get more businesses going.
Know that they can go after this money.
But I think the bottom line on this particular case is the way that it was presented. And
it's kind of
I understand that. We take responsibility for that.
In the business, I'm community.
We, the EDC, tend to be
activists.
More nuts and bolts,
and so we don't
jobs. But the Type B, I went back and actually listened to them. Type B, and we understand what the EDC said. We understand, but we believe that this is a catalytic
because this would be an opportunity for the public
for downtown.
And I was
they didn't mention that
I don't think
Chaparral Street's been dead for 14 years.
So help others.
I had my wife's 50th birthday at Bourbon Street.
Goals. They can go after this
great time.
No, and I agree. I mean, I really do love this project, and like you said, it's unique. And it is a catalyst, but I guess every project is different. And even though I love it, the project has already started. Why do you need the taxpayers' money? I mean, they're still going to build it, so I don't think I'll be supporting this, but not because it's not a good project. I think it's going to be something great for the downtown and for Corpus, but the way that it was presented for me, puts up some red flags because, of course, I think everybody saw the news that, that there's some shenanigans that happened of what was presented to the city, what was presented to us, and what was on the application. I think that still needs to be investigated, and that's one thing that I think we need to clarify, Peter. Did we find out about the application? Was it altered? Was it, manipulated? What did happen? I think the city deserves an answer.
Right, so we're working with the applicant on that, Councilwoman. We requested information from the applicant. They requested clarification from the city. And so we're in the process of working with them to get that information. We feel confident we'll get it. That's the response on that.
And Councilwoman, just for clarity, the downtown management district, they do a very good job. They do make absolutely certain that the businesses that come in are aware of the incentive program. which entail
I
these
think
funds.
that still needs
Well,
to
this
be.
is just specifically for downtown, but what I'm trying to tell the community is that there is type B money, yeah, so it's not
Well,
just.
right.
Okay.
It's right, they do the same.
I will tell you that the EDC, Mike Culberson believes that the application was fine, the guidelines, it was within the guidelines, it's properly vetted by our board,
from the
it's properly vetted by the type B board, and now it's
cases
due.
from the city so we're in the process of working with them to get that information.
Big, long questions.
I understand, and it was a real pushing toward the FEMA, and the reason why that is and it's my fault, is that,
And
you know,
councilman, they're just
when
for
we look
clarity.
at, we look at infrastructure. So, you know, we did infrastructure for the soccer field, we did infrastructure for Lighthouse Point. These are the things that we did, and that's why we pushed the agenda memo that way.
Is that
but
there
really,
is
the Type B
money.
said in their quote
Yeah.
that this is a
So it's
catalytic
not worth
project,
it.
and that's why
Right.
they went with $2 million.
Yeah, and
But I am comfortable with it.
I like, I like the project, it's just how it was presented, and because the project had already started, I don't think they need any more money from it.
The proposed town 2024 program includes 13
projects across our
say, okay, we're fine.
Focus on public
But we did.
safety,
Information from the
street.
website.
I'm afraid to turn on my mic, because then I won't get another chance, but I think I have one more.
process
I
of
hate to
working
say it.
Okay.
Here by far.
Yes,
She does the
Councilman
best thing
This is a
Hernandez.
budget of $89.5 million
Okay,
dedicated to
thank you,
residential
Mike,
and
and
commercial
I
streets.
appreciate the time
This
and
includes 18
taking
congratulations
trying to take the arrows here. I want to make sure that this timeline, because there's a very long agenda memo that talked about all the issues that came about. And, you know, unfortunately, just via various reasons, the presentations and the information didn't always match up with what was actually happening.
Any money from the
Okay,
idea
so
that
just to
we
go
have
through the
finished
timeline,
in the guide where you would say
a request was made, it went before the EDC. EDC board members took a look at it, said, okay, we can't give you funding on this level, but we're going to do a calculation, a formula based on their economic development. You know, and you could probably describe exactly how that formula.
Right, we use a WIMS 2 model.
Okay,
It is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Okay, and your valuation that you came up was $1,000,000.
Do we remember the way is down there? Really, I want to make sure that there's time.
And we do that based on the amount of investment, and the number of jobs, and how much those jobs get paid. And that is essentially
not
what
that
the
they talked
taxes
about all the
that the
issues.
city will increase by over a 10-year period.
To make
And just to be specific, $1,043,433.
Inflation has remained low and steady,
Based on the economic impact. Okay, that recommendation went to Type B. Type B said, okay, we're not going to use that recommendation, and decided to go with an amount of $2 million, which was the original request of $2 million. And they gave some caveats to saying that it was not for flooding, and there's some structure around it, that they have to have a certain amount of employment through the first few years, and then extend it by 10 more employees from 55 to 65 over a 5-year period.
That's correct.
Okay.
Detection.
However, there was really no basis for the actual amount. Now, by their standards, they don't have to give an amount.
And there's
a great example of a statue of a hippo that was considered economic development in a city close to San Antonio.
And the economic.
The AG said
very
that
good.
it's properly vetted, it's properly
That recommendation, one to type,
it is not to
on there
the Attorney General's. It's not up to him to determine what is economic development.
Okay. So just for clarification, I was just saying Type B does not have to go with the REDC recommendation. It's just two separate things.
Which was the original request of 2 million people.
Okay. Thank you, Mike, and I appreciate the time and taking being in front to take the arrows here.
And we remember
I want to make sure that this timeline, because there's a very long agenda memo that talked about all the issues that came about. And, you know, unfortunately,
via various reasons, the presentations and the information didn't always match up with what was actually happening.
Okay.
Okay, so just to go through the timeline, a request was made. It went before the EDC. EDC board members took a look at it, said, okay, we can't give you funding on this level, but we're going to do a calculation, a formula based on their economic development, and you could probably describe exactly how that formula.
Right, we use a RIMS 2 model, which is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Right now.
Okay, and your valuation that you came up was $1,043,000 and some change, right?
Firm with the numbers.
And we do that based on the amount of investment and the number of jobs and how much those jobs get paid.
Development Services still collects their fees, but
essentially
yes.
what the taxes that the city will increase by over a 10-year period.
Okay, and just to be specific, $1,043,433.
Yes.
Right? Based on the economic impact.
That's correct.
Okay, that recommendation went to Type B.
Correct.
Type B said, okay, we're not going to use that recommendation, and decided to go with an amount of $2 million, which was the original request of $2 million. And they gave some caveats to saying that it was not for flooding, and there was some structure around it that they have to have a certain amount of employment through the first few years, and then extend it by 10 more employees from 55 to 65 over a 5-year period.
That's correct.
Okay. However, it was really no basis for the actual amount. Now,
but employment through the
by their standards, they don't have to give them an
extended
amount.
by 10 more employees.
There's a great example of a statute
very long agenda
considered economic development in a
issues
city
that
close
came
to
about.
San Antonio.
And the AG said that,
and
properly
unfortunately,
vetted,
the various reasons, the presentations, and the information didn't always match.
You could take something and, I'm not suggesting this, please don't shoot me. But you could say, I don't want to use it for the seawall anymore, I want to use it for something else, because this is a reauthorization. The current authorization is expiring and we're authorizing it for something else.
Well, let's say that again for clarity.
Yes.
Because if it's not the seawall fund anymore. It's going to be,
it would be more
it along
flood protection.
It's protecting the city.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay. And I know that we had asked some questions. We're waiting on a response.
Right.
I believe the request was asked for in writing.
Of those,
correct?
That's correct.
We would have to make the questions in writing.
Right. Yeah, we had a verbal meeting, and then that was followed up by a request from their attorneys that said, hey, can you send that to us in writing? And so we're in the process of doing that.
Okay. And then it came to council, but what was in that agenda memo didn't reflect what Type B had provided us, what had decided their information was on. So we have a lot of,
Mike, okay, so I
should I
was
say, muddy
just
waters
at the
that
location.
were not
I was
necessarily,
just saying the type be
clear.
We certainly could have done a better job
editing,
on that.
so to speak.
I don't want to dismiss that as
I get it. And so, and I'm on the backside. I was not,
really just the date of the
didn't
press
track it all the way from the EDC to Type B, but didn't get it until the first reading towards us. So now I have to come back and kind of unbundle it and try and get the exact what it is. Okay, but I guess the biggest challenge here is the Type B had recommended us a dollar amount without really saying why.
That's great.
They don't have to. They don't have to, but they didn't really say why. But in light of the issues that we have, I think I will be making a motion to send it back to Type B for clarification on the amount and why they chose that amount. Just simply because of the environment that this has created, this muddy water that has been created by this. So after all the comments are done, I will be making that motion. Thank you, Mayor.
I don't want to waste that. I don't want to waste that. And so, and I'm on the back of it.
Yeah,
I was not.
I don't
was
understand
really, and just was
Councilman
able to
Hernandez's
track
comment
it all the
because
way
in
from
the
United
contract that
States.
Type B Corporation signed,
I understand.
that I have a copy of here, it specifically spells out what their expectations are for this project.
Yes.
There's nothing significant of it says that the company will invest at least $28 million for
There's
the
two of
construction
them.
of the
Each one, 8
project.
cents, produces
At
about
least
$8.9
120
million.
rooms,
As of
7,000
fiscal
square
year
feet of
24,
retail space.
that continues to grow as our taxable sales and revenue continues to grow. So the two authorizations are, one is for the American Bay Center Arena, which one 8 cents is allocated for that project. Remember Type A, type of projects? So this is allocated to that project. And so originally it was the idea behind it was for the
Then it also goes on to talk about on or before September 30th, 2025, company must certify the creation of at least 55 new full-time jobs. And I think that's important, Mike. You said a while ago that your calculations are based on how much ad valorem tax money this is going to add to the pot, but it doesn't talk about what adding jobs is going to do for the city of Corpus Christi.
$0.9 million a year.
Add that in. But more to your
So
point,
they're looking at the Type B corporation. So like I said, there was a portion of Type A funding that had expired. It was reauthorized as Type B or 4B funding. And so the corporation was created in January of 2018. The 1/8 cents was approved with a 20-year term expiring in April of 2038. And it was authorized for 3 specific purposes.
No later than September 30th, 2027, with an average salary of right at $31,000 a year as described in the schedule below. Those are not paying jobs for our city. The company must retain all jobs created in accordance with this agreement for the full term of the agreement. So if they don't do that, they don't get the full amount of the money. And each year with the inspection, they have to have reached at least 70% of those goals, or they're not even considered for reimbursement.
The door
so
we go in, we look at tax records, we look at invoices.
I can just see that
TWC, Texas Workforce Commission report that shows that these jobs are here, that they exist here. So, nobody's like somewhere else. That doesn't really apply.
Can't be working from home in San Antonio. Okay. It also says the company must retain ownership interest in the project for at least 5 years after completion of construction. Assignment of this agreement or payoffs under this agreement during the 5-year period is only effective if approved in writing by the city manager of Corpus Christi. I think the Type B Corporation was pretty explicit about what their expectations are.
I believe so.
And why they granted this award. So, okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
So just making sure that.
Okay, you're holding on. Okay. I think that's all. Thank you, Mr. Culbertson. I'm going to go ahead and open public comment. And I think we have a few people who would like to make comment on item number 7. We'll start with Taylor Johnson.
Somewhere else has a lot more staff.
Is
there any way that
doesn't
you
really
bring or have the workforce people come to your latchkey program for
before the full time
might be able to get there instead of going all the way down to workforce?
So if they don't do that, they don't.
108, 110, whatever the number is, how does it work? How does it work before that happens?
The full time.
I mean, we're sending guys out the door today, potentially getting FEMA reimbursement up to 106. So the question becomes is, where does that money go?
Full-time
Democrat or Republican, Taylor Johnson will be able to disagree
Back to us how?
Good afternoon,
Mayor and City Council. Yeah, but when we get it, where does it go?
In this $2 million transaction, an incentive or a reward. Rewards are retrospective, whereas incentives are prospective. EDC type incentives always follow the rule, but for the incentive, this project would not be here. Not in this case, though. Let's look at the timeline and the process that was followed. TIRZ project presentation on April 2023. Total improvement cost,
Time of the
$32,745,500, based on the June 2023
Taylor
final
Johnson,
TIRZ
46,
Exhibit
here
C.
at I'm sure
Job
would like to
creation
drive.
approximately
Afternoon,
65.
Mayor, city
Incentives
council, city
approved
staff.
$1,550,000 in June of 2023. Next, we have the
Here at
revised
I'm
EDC
sure when
application
Lake Drive,
on November
good
2023. Total improvement cost, $30 million based on the January 30th, 2024 City Agenda Memorandum. Job creation, 70. Again, from the January 30th, 2024 City Agenda Memorandum. CCREDC incentive proposed $1,043,433. Then Type B incentive proposed $2 million for 55 to 65 jobs. Double
So based off the incentives that
incentive
have been
for
committed
less
to date,
job
we estimate
count.
that we'll end the year with a $7.4 million fund balance.
The question, City Council, staff, EDC Type B ought
Then
to
our
ask.
streets,
First,
we have one
if the
project,
incentive
which
is
is
not
the Elizabeth
granted,
Street from Santa
what
Fe
will
to
the project
Staples.
look
That is the
like?
project that was approved
5
for
floors,
$1.2 million.
127 guest rooms,
The street signs will be
rooftop bar,
reimbursed in
retail
economic
space,
development fund
and
of
55 to
2.5
60
million.
jobs
So we do
at a
estimate that we'll spend the
30,000
majority
average
of the
salary.
funds within the
job
SIP
creation
If the city
70
were
again
to
from
grant the incentive of
January
$2 million,
30th,
what would the project look
2024
like?
City Agenda
The answer is
Memorandum
still
CCREDC
5 floors,
incentive
127
proposed
rooms, rooftop bar, retail space, and 50 to 60 jobs at a $30,000 salary average. So final question, what is the city getting back for $2 million?
Man in the middle.
The answer, absolutely nothing. The property is well under construction and already on the second floor of 5. So based on this definition, is this really an incentive? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Zachary Bornstein?
White first, if the blue team.
I had a video on the slide.
City managers, but Peter, by far, you've been the best city manager that I've worked for, and I hope and pray that you stay another 5 years.
Congratulations, Peter, on 5 years as
Blue
city
team,
manager
I had
of
a
Corpus
video on the
Christi.
slide.
I'm not surprised to hear that you've built
$2
an excellent
million,
team
and the
you're
answer,
doing outstanding
absolutely
work.
nothing.
You were a star in San Antonio.
The property is well
Keep it up.
under
Do a
construction
great job.
and already on the
congratulations.
second floor.
I want to congratulate Peter on his 5 years at the city of...
So based on this definition, is this really an incentive? Thank you for your time.
Video first.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah. Thank you.
Zachary Bornstein.
Zachary Bornstein,
Wait
401
first
North
if the
Chaparral.
blue team. Dull
Thank
of
you.
$2
Councilman
million,
Hedrum?
and the answer, absolutely
So as a
nothing.
banker, when you invest
The
in a
property
new
is
project
well
or go into a new project
Blue
with somebody, you're not
team.
gonna check the flood zone first when you're building?
Yeah.
That's the big concern I have. As an insurance agent, that's the first thing we check. You can't even start building the building until it's insured. So when you're building in the flood zone, it has to be already checked. So why are we doing this
CIA.
6 months after?
Mine at a task is not eligible.
The rules that come out later.
16 of 2029. It's negative.
changed.
We've been working on the rules for 2 years. You can expect those changes 2 years ago.
Silence
So,
from EDC
as a
chief.
banker, when you invest in the product
7.
sector,
Councilman
go
Hernandez.
into a new project, who's on
Okay,
what you're
so
going to
every
check.
project that would be
Flood
downtown
zone
would be
first
flood zone.
when you're building.
Right,
That's
so
a big
are you gonna give the
concern.
benefit to everybody that's downtown, that's it?
Am I going to change it or are you going to change it? She's changing it. This exchange was on February 20th, 2024, while this slide was being discussed in support of the FEMA narrative. Interruption of a fellow council member who rightfully raised very serious concerns about a potential $2 million handout. 7 times in 45 seconds in support of a false narrative. Pending an already ongoing investigation, this footage and the entire background will now be part of a supplement to Texas State Complaint SC 323-10292 filed with the State Commission. Can I play the video again, please?
All day around the city at dawn.
AI might take their job? And all the nonsense we see on the news every day, the over-the-top rhetoric, the fabricated conspiracies, the weird videos
Wailing.
of a U.S. president with a crown
Am going to
on his
check
head
flood
flying
zone
a
first
fighter
when
jet
you're building.
and
That's the
dumping
big
poop
concern I have.
on
Yes, ma'am.
protesting
Wailing.
citizens.
Council will adopt a federal and a state legislative agenda, and 2 dates to keep on your calendar. November 19, that's a city council meeting. We'll be
So
working
as a
with the city council
venture,
in kind of a
when you
workshop
invest
format
in a new
on
project
the
or
legislative
go into a new
agenda.
project,
So it'll be
so
a
we're not gonna check
discussion.
flood zone
Brian will
first
present
when you're
what
building?
he's collected through the past 2
That's the
years
big
with the city
concern.
council.
The
On
insurance
November
agent, that's the
19,
first
there'll
thing
be
we've got.
discussion
You
amongst
can't
the
even
council
start
of what do we
building
want our
until
state
it's insured.
and federal legislative
So
agenda
when
to
you're building a
be.
flood zone, it has to be already checked. So why are we doing this
Because it changed.
6 months after?
It changed.
advisory in those ships to see that nobody makes equipment like we do. Nobody makes the ammunition.
We've been working on the rules for 2 years.
And if they do, the American sailors.
You can expect those changes 2 years ago.
That was a good
Signs from the
idea.
EC chief,
They did change though.
7.
Councilman Hernandez.
So I have to make sure when
Okay,
you switch
so every
vests
project
in
that
a
would
new
be
project
downtown would be in a flood zone.
CIA.
Right, so are we gonna give the benefit to everybody that's downtown, that's it?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bornstein.
Worm.
Kaushik Bhakta?
Big deep ditch right here. That's why I was going to do the sign on the left side.
Kaushik Bhakta, residing at 6145 St. Dennis Street, District 5.
So
Good afternoon, Mayor Guajardo, esteemed members of City Council, and City Manager Zanoni. As President of Operations at ZJZ Hospitality, today I'm here to advocate for the approval of the $2 million incentive allocated to the downtown hotel project. This proposed establishment, featuring a rooftop bar, Topgolf suites, and retail space upon completion, promises a much-needed addition to the revitalization of our downtown area. It is poised to become a catalyst for future development, transforming our downtown into a vibrant hub that has been long overdue for the past 3 decades. I urge you to disregard the unwarranted noise generated by a select group attempting to imply fraud.
As
These
seen
claims are
members of
merely
City
a
Council
tactic
and City
employed
Manager
by our
Zanoni.
competitors to distract from the facts
As president
and delay
of
the City
operations
Council's
at ZJZ
decision.
Hospitality,
3
today
News
I'm
did
here
an
to
investigative
advocate for
story
the approval
on this yesterday
mitigation.
evening and posted this on their Facebook post. 3 News can confirm the date that was left out of the document was just the date of the news release. The document still had the most important date, the date when the new FEMA maps would take effect. Again, I urge the City Council to support and approve this proposed incentive, recognizing the significant potential it holds to
As these
foster
claims are no
historical
city
growth
council and
within
city
our enchanting downtown.
Not quite passed
May
yet.
this
So this
decision
last
should
legislative
serve
session
as a
for
resounding
Texas in Senate
testament
Bill
to
916,
the council's
they
unwavering
passed some
commitment
language that would
to advancing
limit,
the
and
progress
posted this
and
on their
development
Facebook
of our
post.
beloved
entities
city.
that provided
Free
emergency
By
News
endorsing
can
this
confirm the
incentive,
date that
the
was
council
left
will
out.
not only propel
annual fee
After the
economic
document was just
expansion,
the date
but
of
also
the news
affirm
release.
its dedication
And the inland
to
inflation
enhancing
is a
the
calculation
vibrancy
based on
and
that
allure
ordinance
of our community.
Council
The date
will
Together,
adopt
let
a
us seize
federal
this
and a state
opportunity
legislative
to
agenda.
shape
And
a
2
future
dates to keep
that
on
aligns
your calendar.
with
November
aspiration
19, that's a City
and
Council
vision
meeting. We'll be
for
working with the
development
City Council in kind of a workshop
downtown
format
as shared
on the
by citizens.
legislative agenda. So it'll be
Corpus
a
Christi
discussion.
Titan
Ryan will
Board
present
clearly
what he's
stated
collected through
that
the
this
past
has nothing
2
to do
years
with
with the City
FEMA,
Council.
but it is due
On
to
November
a
19, there'll
capstone
be
project
discussion amongst the
in the
council of what do we
downtown
want our
area
state
to spur
and
other
federal legislative
developments
agenda to be.
when this project was recommended for the $2 million incentive. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Bhakta. Ajit David?
And I have owner information in the event we get further calls on this animal.
2.1.
Court of the Scottish Tea Time. Night vision. Court of the Scottish Tea. Night vision.
Charlie, 290 clear, signal 4.
So clearly know why it's happening. And I brought a few friends. We brought some colleagues here from the state of New York and New York City to share with you
before we start,
about some of what's going on here.
I'd
Back
like
in
to
March,
extend
this is very clear what happened.
my
Let me summarize very briefly
feelings
as quickly as I can. Back in
for
March,
Chief Marco,
Chuck
who
Schumer
was here
voted for
earlier today and
the city
his
manager
entire
that's on
team
the
is
floor
going
now.
through.
He did
And
the
I
right
hope
thing, and he went
everybody
on
in the
the
city
before
council,
the
city
Senate,
manager's office
and he gave an
will
impassioned
stand
speech
behind our
of
brave,
why
our
we could
brave
never
police
inflict all this
department.
pain on the
Thank you.
American people.
$6.5 million total, and we were going back to just
CIA.
addressing the structural
Thank you.
deficiencies.
Does everybody have a copy?
with the,
Okay, thank you.
flood wall
Department
behind the
of Homeland
science
Security.
Ajit David, 5821 Ocean Drive. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, federal and state
Endpoint
agents,
detection
if any in the
and
audience,
response.
political consultants, and everybody in attendance, including members of the media. I think I covered everybody in this room. Good afternoon. In last week's council meeting, I had raised some very serious concerns regarding a federal document that seemed tampered, altered, or edited from its original source. The only response I received, I'm quoting, that document went from one Xerox machine to another, causing some very specific information to disappear. This is the original document that you have on the screen. Let me show you how it's done. This is the original document that is on FEMA website today. This was the only presentation that EDC had in front of council on February 20th. You see the red circle over there? That's where the missing information was.
City manager.
This is how it's done. You just Photoshop it. It's that simple. There is no use of a Xerox machine over here. This is just called electronically altering a federal document. We all know something very serious occurred, prompting the city to investigate and admit much later that they had made a mistake. It is extremely difficult to convince one that the city manager, EDC chief, city council, at least 6 of 9, etc. all made a mistake. In fact, I'm told that the applicant is not just an architect, but also a past chair of the EDC. It cannot be a mere coincidence that everyone was part of this error. In fact, city staff still cannot recommend an approval to council. Take a close look at the first city staff recommendation, which read, that is the first one on February 20th. It says, staff recommends approval. In fact, this was before all the issues had been highlighted. Today's staff recommendation reads, that's the next one, it says, staff recommends City Council to consider this agreement. In other words, staff is saying, we cannot approve this, so we're washing our hands and we'll let City Council decide amongst themselves.
This is just called
with more important issues
altering
like
a
diesel,
federal
infrastructure,
document.
sales tax allocation, etc. at stake.
We all
the city
know
needs to
something
rebuild
very
trust with the
serious
community.
occurred.
Before council decides to even consider a vote, I'm requesting that the city manager,
they had made a mistake.
and the applicant, only one question, not
It
behind
is
closed doors,
extremely difficult
but in front of this audience and in public. You'll have a copy of that question. Did any part of the application to procure children and tax dollars contain a federal document that was tampered, altered, or edited from its original source? Regardless if that document was ever used to make a final decision, we don't worry about what the final decision was. Just ask that question. If that answer even remotely leans towards a yes, stop the show immediately and disqualify the application. That will save the city a lot of embarrassment and disgrace once results of a higher level investigation are out. Thank you.
Information like the federal infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Tax
Melody needs
I
some
know
price.
this is two different developers for 13 and 14, and I know the
We
developer
all
for 14
know the
did
same
Oso
story
Parkway and
with
Concrete.
Russia.
Do we know if
Syracuse
this is going to
occurred.
be the case for the other developer.
This will be asphalt.
It'll be asphalt.
My name is Melody Nixon Vice. I'm in 5141 Dr. Court, District 5.
Tell that.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, and staff. I'm the General Manager at the Embassy Suites by Hilton, and I come before you today in support of the proposed $2 million Type B incentive funding for the Homewood Suites in the downtown area. My hope is that the smoke and mirrors being created by some to deter this approval will not cloud your vision. The truth is that the partners in this development have been nothing but transparent and have followed through on everything that's been asked of them. I've worked for ZJZ Hospitality for almost 13 years, and I've never doubted their integrity and their commitment to our community. This has been a cornerstone of their foundation and a reason why I proudly represent the company on various boards and committees throughout the city. Bringing a new hotel to the downtown area will not only increase options for travelers, but it will be an economic driver with the creation of more jobs, additional tax revenues, and due to the great walkability, it will encourage hotel guests to patronize neighboring businesses as well. The Downtown Management District has worked diligently over the last several years, building momentum and bringing vitality to the area. And this hotel project is another piece of that puzzle. Approving this incentive shows that our city is vested in working alongside local businesses to keep Corpus Christi growing. This has been my home for nearly 30 years, and I'm proud to call Corpus home.
Asked about it, said, hey, I just go back and shut it down again.
Of the progress we continue making together. City Council members, I respectfully, yet wholeheartedly ask you to vote yes on the proposed $2 million funding request. Thank you for your listening ear and open mind and steadfast commitment to Corpus Christi.
And the general additional tax revenues.
Edgar Ramirez?
And due to the great walkability, it will occur to jail for the patronized neighborhood's 2 million places. This is what the Downtown Management
Edgar Ramirez,
District,
7170
Christi
Winbrook Lane.
Grind.
I won't take up too much of your time. I think most of what I had to say has already been said. Councilwoman Campos and Councilman Hernandez, Mr. David, kind of have the same questions that I had, and I hope that you all take the time to consider those questions before you take your vote. You know, for most companies, you know, they make the project based on the revenue they're expecting, and I'm sure this hotel is coming whether you help them out or not, and they're going to determine their success based on the revenue that they drive.
City
you know,
manager,
again, that's really all I have to say.
You've been
Thank
the
you.
best city manager that I've
Thank you,
worked
Mr.
for,
Ramirez.
and I hope
And
pray
last
that,
we have Mr.
you stay
Darrell
another
Genser.
5 years.
Congratulations, Peter, on 5 years as city manager of Corpus Christi.
I won't take up
I'm not
too much
surprised to
Mayor,
hear
to
that you
confirm,
built
Mr.
an
Denzer
excellent
is
team and
not
you're doing
a resident. That's
outstanding
what he
work.
listed on his.
You're a star in San Antonio.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Mayor,
Do a
council
great
members,
job.
Daryl Genzer,
And
221 Commerce Street in Portland. I'm not a resident of Corpus, but I am an investor and business partner in different businesses here in the Corpus Christi area. I'm just going to echo the sentiments of some others that have come before me. I think with the questions that you have in front of you, in particular some that haven't been answered yet, even though they've been requested, I find it would be difficult for the council to take action.
Thank you, Mr.
Considering all of the questions that are here. Again, like Mr. Johnson said, you know, what's really an incentive when this project is underway.
Darrell Jensen.
You're going to get it regardless if we give them $2 million or not. So I think it's just caution, and I would highly recommend that the council, you know, put this on pause and look into it a little bit further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Genser. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment on this item. And Councilman Hunter.
Mayor, council members.
Well, thank you, Mayor.
Jensen.
Council will adopt a federal and a state legislative agenda and 2 dates to keep on your calendar. November 19, that's a city council meeting. We'll be working with the city council in kind of a workshop format on the legislative agenda. So it'll be a discussion. Ryan will present what he's collected through the past 2 years with the city council. On November 19, there'll be discussion amongst the council on what we want our state and federal legislative agenda to be.
I find it would.
And to Ms. Compos's question earlier on how aware is the community of tourism and type B funding.
This is actually the property of the
There's no
Industrial Development
either,
Corporation.
and there's no limit on
And we also learned that there were some deed
I'm speaking of the
restrictions
public's
that
awareness
attached
to
to
be
this
able to
property
access
when
the
we
funds to
received
their own
it back
projects.
from the state.
Which I
So
do think
this
that
was all
awareness
part of
has
the
grown
Cliff Moss
quite a
Airport.
bit. It really
And
has. But if you ask the majority of the
support the
community, they're
construction
going
of
to say,
Texas State
Put
School,
this on pause
we
or
I
wasn't
can get money
dedicated
to
the
start
land
my
to the
own
state.
business downtown. And I think that if we
Thank
did build
you.
that awareness, we would have a lot more success downtown.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Just for the record, I do not
Okay.
think any of the people
And
that were
going to
doing
go
this
ahead-
project on the private side had any
And to miscompose this question earlier
part to
on
do
how
with some of
where
the
is the
accusations.
community
Because
of
if we
tours
remember in
and
the
type to
EDC
be
board
funded,
meeting, I voted
there's
along
no
with
limit on
our
either.
vice chair or chair
And there's no
recommendation
limit on a
to just
combination.
go with a lesser number.
And I'm
So,
speaking to the public.
although it will
so
be awkward
where
for
it is
lunch,
to be able
thank you
to
for the
access
video
those
earlier.
services to their own projects,
I will
which
say
I
that
do think that
any
awareness has
project
grown quite a bit.
that has
It
to do
really
with floods,
has.
and you're going to argue
But
that
if you ask some
there's
majority of the
changes in the flood
community,
numbers
they're
2 years
going
later
to say,
when
did
it is our duty as a city